Okay. Any changes to the agenda?
I'll be quiet.
Do we have lot 1, Old Oaken Bucket on that?
I don't
Says we
think
can start at
that,
6:15.
you sent us something from Mass Audubon, but there was no attachment to it, I don't think, right?
It wasn't.
It was a paragraph
It was
down below.
invisible.
Oh,
It
all
was
right.
just one paragraph,
Oh,
there was no
okay,
attachment.
okay.
Yeah.
No, I make a motion with.
Formal for lot 1 Old Oaken Bucket.
Okay.
Lot what?
Lot 1, Old Oaken Bucket.
Old Oaken Bucket.
Oh,
Yeah, we were
okay.
there today.
I make a motion to accept the agenda with the one.
Addition. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
I
I can't even think right now.
So Pat, what do we,
Yeah, it's 6:30 if we could start Greg's, but we have 5 minutes?
yep.
Okay, what would you like to cover?
Could we do the Studley? Because I thought we were gonna get something right away last week.
Which one?
Studley Farm? We were gonna get a memo?
We should add that to the agenda. Is that on the agenda?
Yes, it is on
Oh,
the
Studley,
agenda.
okay.
I should probably not.
Well, you just close your ears. Did we ever get the memo?
We got a memo, but we haven't received a notice, if there's a notice going to be required. The attorney sent something today, I haven't even read it yet, so.
Because he was gonna send it last week, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't get sent last week. It came in last night, I was going to read it today, I haven't read it, but it's related to the work out in the street and on the stormwater basin. I could get it, if we take a break in the meeting, I could print it out and bring it in tonight, if you want.
All right, and maybe pick it up later. I just feel very strongly that a notice has to be filed,
Right, yep,
very strongly.
yep. This is a letter explaining what they're planning to do, but I haven't,
Well,
there's no notice, so.
All good. but
Right.
I really, right from the get-go, I thought there was another notice coming in, and I
Right.
lost sight of it myself.
Right, about a month ago, we heard that.
Well, no,
Yeah.
this is back when it was going on. I really expected one more to be coming in, and I kind of forgot about it until I went out there.
All right, I'll get that if we
Please.
take a break in the middle and we
Thank
can
you.
look at it.
Either that or if I have to recluse myself, you could just do it in the end and I could leave early.
Oh, we're not letting you out early. No.
Well, we got just a couple of minutes.
Okay.
The scouts from Troop 7 cleaned up the parking lot at the Ellis on Man Lot Road. They did a great job, pile of stuff. I've got a picture and some names, and I'll get that over. And then I'm trying to reach the scout master, but another young guy did call. And if anybody's got any ideas for small one-day projects, I mean, we can keep going at either the Ellis Estate or another one. Usually I try to give them a couple of options.
You can work at my house. Oh, no, that wasn't an option.
Oh. So the other kid must have spread the word to him that we
I
could
guess
come
there's
here.
they've got a decent number of kids
Good.
going through. And I will reach that scout troop leader and get some photos from the other one, and then maybe if we get something in the paper, it'll be 2 or 3 of them. And maybe at some point, we'll just ask them to come in and say thanks, and,
It's the only happy stuff we have going on in here, we might as well.
oh,
bring
come
them
on.
back.
It's all good. Just depends on how you look at it,
Yes.
Pat.
See,
Right, Lisa?
Rose-colored glasses.
do you know what these red folders are? This is, you know what red is?
And not for Christmas.
We have another quick one we could do. It's 30 Inner Harbor Road. They are doing a lot of projects, but there was an old request for a certificate of compliance for the elevation from a few years back. And I met with Neil, and they sent in all the required information, and they are elevated, they have their elevation certificate, and Neil was happy that it was done as it should be.
Oh, good.
So you can give them, they can get that?
We could issue a certificate on that.
Good.
Yeah, so.
Okay. Well, it looks like 6:30 to me.
Close enough.
Have a happy one.
There we go.
We're cleaning up the septic system at Peggy Beach.
Good evening, Greg Morse Engineering for the record. Representing the property owner Geraldine Mazzola. This property is at 30 Inner Harbor Road, which is over at Peggy Beach. One of my colleagues opened the project, I think, a couple months ago. We've been tied up with the Board of Health getting the septic plan approved. It has been approved at this point. The reason why we're here is this property is located on a coastal barrier beach. It is also located within a velocity zone. It's located at 30 Inner Harbor Road. The plan, the property line here is shown in bold, has an existing dwelling centrally located on the lot. The lot is 4,800 square feet in size. As Pat just mentioned, they elevated the house circa 2006. We are getting a certificate of compliance for that project at this point. We're here for the septic system. The septic system that's there now is a cesspool. It failed a Title V inspection. We're proposing to replace it with a new septic tank, leaching chamber system. It's all located underneath the house. The house is elevated up on piles, so the system is going in between the pylons there. The entire lot itself, again, is within the velocity zone. This differentiates this dashed line. The velocity zone, elevation 17, and elevation 15. The lot, for reference, is generally between elevation 7 at Inner Harbor Road up to elevation 12 or 13 underneath the house where the system is located.
Is that the new FEMA numbers or the old FEMA numbers?
These are
Or?
the old FEMA numbers, the current FEMA.
Yeah, current, sorry, yeah,
yes.
right, yeah.
Penny?
No questions? No?
Bill?
No.
Richard?
I'm good.
Good.
Does Board of Health have any issues with what you're proposing?
Not at this point, they've approved it. We went back and forth and we looked at the possibility of tying into the town sewer. We looked at the possibility of putting a tight tank in, and we met twice with them. They determined this was going to be the best feasible upgrade of the lot.
And it's anchored by the foundation, and that's how it's anchored in the V zone?
There are anchorings to the septic tank itself. The leaching system is just within the
Yeah,
soil.
gotcha.
So that's a fiberglass tank that's under the house, Greg?
It is, yeah, with concrete collars poured around it.
And how big is that tank?
1,500 gallons. It's about 16 and a half, 7.5 feet in width.
Huh. So you do that to fit between the piers? Is-
There were really two reasons why we went with this. One was the location of the tank, where it is. We couldn't get a conventional tank truck in there with a concrete weight tank. This one here, you can move, with a smaller machine underneath the house.
And then one other question, just for my own information. With the proximity to the wetlands, and obviously the beach nearby, is there anything intricate with this Title V septic compared to a traditional Title V septic in a non-wetlands area, if you will?
Sure. No, this one here doesn't have pieces. It's not a treatment plant system. It's not a pressure dosed system. We did a test pit, and we had groundwater at elevation 4.5. Title V requires on a local upgrade a minimum of a 4-foot separation to the bottom of the septic system, and we were able to comply with that. So
Okay.
we weren't asking for any relief for groundwater variances.
Okay.
God, Steve, you have a...
I'm curious, do you have 4 markers in the corner so you can tell how much sand is on top of the system?
No. No.
That might be a good thing to have. Use those in Hummerock, right, to determine if the sand is going, leaving on top of the system?
Very good point. If you wanted a condition that we put a mark on some of the pilings that would show where the appropriate finished grade is, we could certainly do that. Because
Well,
in a velocity zone, it is subject to moving around.
Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna
The
know it
house
from
is
the
subject
plan,
to
but
moving around.
you're gonna know what the grade is from the plan, but you could put a couple of...
He'll let the homeowner know very quickly they're below, or the Board of Health if she has to go out and look after a storm at some of these.
They'll know when they can see the tops of the infiltrators.
Yeah.
if they're still there.
Yeah. This is crazy.
Okay.
You know what, Greg and I had a discussion, though, and I don't know where I heard this or what I was told. It was my understanding that you could not hook a house on a barrier beach up to public sewage.
I know you can't in Hummerock. There's
Right,
no
but
service down
when they,
there.
when
We
they...
don't have sewerage.
What's the
Right,
logic?
right.
But
And
when
they're
they
never gonna
sewered,
happen.
when they sewered the...
But that's different from saying you can't
First
hook
Cliff.
up to it. It's not available.
When they sewered First Cliff, and it went by
Doherty's?
Doherty's, they didn't hook up any of those houses that are in that little stretch, and we actually had to look at, there was one, as you start to head down the hill from Edward Foster, there was a house on the
Gilmore.
right, and they actually, no,
No.
beyond that, on the other side of the road. They had to show where the barrier beach started and where Upland started, and these guys were okay to do a connection. But those houses, I'm almost positive, are not connected.
I think Doherty was because it was new construction.
Yeah, but
Barrier Beach.
And also, but Man Hill, the houses on Man Hill Beach, they couldn't hook those up. And I don't know whose regulation that is, and I got,
Why?
Seems
That seems-
antithetical.
I've never found that. I know you mentioned it, but once we determined it wasn't feasible, I stopped researching.
have you ever heard that, Pat?
No?
Maybe we could ask DPW or Board of Health, but,
What did they say to you, Greg, when you brought that up?
No, seems.
Trying to hook up to Peggy Beach Road there?
The answer was short.
No.
No frontage on the sewer line, right? And that's the issue they have. They don't have any
Oh.
frontage.
Where's the
Yeah.
nearest tie-in point for the sewer line
Right
relative
on
to
the
this
other
property?
side of the Peggy Beach parking lot.
So within a couple hundred feet of this property, roughly?
Probably
More than
300
that,
feet.
300.
maybe.
Okay. I was just curious, I don't know the existing utilities.
I'd like to, somehow, I gotta ask the right person that, but I was almost, for some reason, I had been under the understanding that they wouldn't do that.
We can get the answer. Could be the sewer department, too.
Okay. Anybody else?
So, you want to make a
Yeah,
motion?
I'm just waiting.
There must be.
You have any?
The only other thing is, I spoke with Jennifer, she said they were set with it. They went back and forth, and the new Jennifer. and
Yeah.
she said
Jennifer,
that
too.
They were all set with it.
Jennifer, too.
Son of Jennifer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jennifer Keefe.
I make a
Have a motion?
motion to close.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
All right, Greg, good to see you again. Take care.
Hallelujah.
They're gonna wish
You want to do these
stayed
couple of
married.
RDAs? We got a few minutes.
Yeah, what do
We have a couple of minutes before
do with Mr.
Stewart.
Yeah, actually, Ada Barry is, we told her 7:30, I mean, 6:40, 6:30?
Well, she's here, so.
Yeah.
Come
So,
on up. and
Come on up.
Probably isn't even coming.
okay, this is a continuance for 20 Monticello. This is, Ada, is your last name Barry also?
It's Caloris now.
Caloris.
Barry was easier.
Okay, so at the last meeting, we had asked you to get some identification of the property line around there.
We've made attempts. We contacted surveyors. This last surveyor, Mr. Hoyt out of Weymouth, said that it would be cost prohibitive. He said because of the type of area that is, that the markers and the monuments aren't something that can be easily found. One surveyor had come out and he had to go so far back, he couldn't get an accurate read. Mr. Hoyt said he's more familiar with the area, but it would cost us so much money to try to get something like that. So we contacted, he said he wouldn't do it. He said he's never heard of it being required here. He said usually they don't make determinations based on ownership of property. So we called DEP, and they told us that their determinations usually, as they said, it's general condition number 2, go out with wording in them that says they are not granting any kind of property rights, exclusive rights, or anything to do with a property determination. So we provided a lot of information in the file about the fence. The fence, my parents bought their house in 1959. They put the fence up that year that they moved in. So we have pictures of the fence from 1959. After the storm in 2013, it still existed. A little bit of it got damaged in the front, but it still existed. So it's not a new fence, it's a fence that's been there. I think, Chairman, when you came out and other members came out, you indicated that it was, the good news, it wasn't, the fence was the right kind of fence. It allowed for water flow, it allowed for cobble.
Right.
So the issue became then the property line, which DEP says they address that by using certain wording in their determinations. So we made efforts to try to seek some kind of a survey, but it's just not working out, and the cost of it's going to be well over $2,000 if they can do one. So we're just here to ask if the determination could be made based on its lack of environmental impact and wording that doesn't give any property rights. And also, just so you know, Public Works gave us a paper that indicates that is a paper street. So that the street that the fence abuts is owned between ourselves and our neighbor to our left or to the north. So and there's over 10 to 15 feet of access to the beach beside the fence and down the middle. So we're not impeding access, we're not building something new, we just...
But it's not a road to the beach anyways, right? I mean, it's a path or something?
Yeah,
Well, it's
you
a
couldn't
paper
get a
street
car.
for beach access, right.
Yeah, it's a walking, would be a walking access.
Can you just refresh my memory? I mean, I went out, we met there, we looked at the site, we met with your sister, but the gist of this that started this is...
Well, there was a fence put up, and there was no contact with us, so we said you have to file something, and either take it down or file something. So they filed an RDA, which we thought would be fine. I think the biggest issue was we were concerned that if we gave the okay for this fence in this area and said that it's not doing any harm, we were careful not to do it on someone else's property. That was the main thing. If it's a notice of intent, you have to have a surveyed plan and you know the bounds of the property. On this one with an RDA, it came up for us, but it was more the concern of, is this going to cause any harm? So we determined the fence wouldn't cause harm, but we also didn't want to block access. So I spoke with Neil for the zoning part of it. I spoke with Kevin Cafferty around the paper street issue, and I spoke with Liz Cool-Harris at DEP. The town looks at it more as a private issue on a paper street. It's among the people who live on that street. The state was saying that if the fence that is in front of their property is okay with us, we could approve that, issue a negative, but if we want to put conditions saying that we don't talk about anything in the easement, that's outside of our jurisdiction, and there would be an approval of the fence in front of their property, but we're not saying a fence beyond their property.
It doesn't infer any property rights or anything, or
Right,
access
right.
rights
They-
or anything like that.
They gave us some language, and Carol
Yep.
printed it out,
Yep.
so.
Yep.
It's on the side.
So it's complicated,
Used to
but it's
address
not a
property
public access.
disputes. Yep. Grant any property rights or exclusive privileges.
Now,
Yeah.
Pat, when you say in front, you're talking the front of the house, not the side.
Sorry, I was saying on the ocean side. The ocean side is where the fence is. That's where our concern was, is it going to be directing water coming in that direction? And it doesn't seem like it would.
No.
It's on the side of the house.
There's a
Well,
fence
it's
on the
both, it's an
side.
L-shaped,
Yeah, right.
but from my recollection, the new fence on the side is not located where the old fence was. I've been out there before for this.
I think you all came out together, a group of you came out together.
Right, and we were out there about probably 2 years ago for some issue about that paper street and disruption there.
No, in 2013, right after the storm, there was a concern.
Okay.
And we don't want to bring that up, was a neighbor
Right.
who plowed through, and
Right.
that's what kind of
they-
started the whole...
From my recollection, this new fence is further from the house, significantly further from the house than the old fence was. As a matter of fact, we had a picture floating around
Yeah, I have
that kind of
pictures.
showed the old fence very close to the concrete slab there. And the new fence is migrated
Out into
away.
it.
Yes.
This is the picture right after the storm, because you can see that a friend came up and took the picture, says, we lost the front room.
Right.
So, and you can see that the fence is right there.
Could I see that?
Of course.
Yeah, where's the other picture we had?
Get the folder, Pat?
Yeah.
My question is,
If this fence is beyond...
Right, the old
her
fence is right
private
next to the slab. The new fence is not right
then
next to the
what's say
slab.
other people can't put up fences
The-
not on their
That's
private
next to the
property?
slab. But when Mr. Galvin came
And
out,
if you look right here, okay? See this picture?
I show me my glass.
Okay. You can see the side fence, and you can see the slab. The new fence is like out here.
Yeah, honestly, it isn't. Honestly, it isn't. It's just where that fence is and where that.
I'm looking at concrete here, and I'm looking at a fence on the side. I mean, I see it. The picture, you can get your glasses, you can see there's where the fence makes the corner. You can see it.
That's where the fence has always been.
I walk by there a lot, I would disagree, but
I don't know what to tell you. That fence has been just where it is. As a matter of fact, when Mr. Galvin came out of the storm, I'll show you why he came out. You had, this is what happened. to-
right, no, I know all about this. I'm
That
intimately
platform.
familiar. I've been out here before, I've walked
Okay.
by here lots.
Right, and that's why he came out and said, put another fence outside of that, a snow fence to protect, so you could put more plantings in. You put some plantings behind it, plantings in front of it. The snow fence got clipped down during the winter time again, after we put the money into that and plantings, and the plantings were destroyed that were outside of that fence. And that's what was going on.
Right, and this happens a lot because people start trying to encroach on the paper streets, and then other neighbors get upset, and they take the
No,
stuff
no, it
down that's
wasn't-
in
it wasn't
the
Christian.
paper
This is-
street.
This neighbor has a desire to make a bigger path to the beach that's comfortable. He continually weed whacks beach grass. This has been going on for years. No one says anything to him. When this happened, we were very concerned because we lost the front of the house. And we wanted to make sure that this wasn't damaged again like that. And we asked that maybe something could be done.
Right.
Just to ask him not to continue to do this, because he said, he called us and said, I want to take advantage of a 30-day emergency order and clear a path to the beach. We said, please don't, we just sustained a bad loss. We don't want any more damage to the dune. And he said, that's what happened as a result of that. And that's when we called Mr. Galvin, or called the board Galvin. That's not.
Right.
Well, obviously, this is not legal, and if we were there, we would try to stop that or whatever.
Right, that's supposed to come to us ahead of time, before any work is done, they're supposed to
Right.
contact
Right.
us.
Well, there was a 30-day emergency order after this.
Right, no, I know about that.
And that's not what, I just wanted you to understand why this all started, where this precipitated from, so.
Emergency orders for emergency.
But I live in Hummerock, and I have fences, and you know the first thing I did before I put up any fences? Called a surveyor, had the property surveyed,
But
and
that-
then-
That was done 53 years ago by my dad.
this fence is not where the old fence is, but now we're going in circles. You can't demonstrate that because you don't have a survey to locate your fence. You just, it's hearsay now about where the fence is.
One gentleman came out and said he had to go so far back and called someone else, and said, get someone who's working in the
Right,
area.
I had to
They
do that. I had to
can't
pay a surveyor to do that. They go off benchmarks, and that's how they do surveys on all those lots down there.
Just like we do with our
Okay.
yard.
Penny?
My only feeling is you shouldn't have a fence that's not on your property. You shouldn't have a fence there, period. I thought it was just supposed to be a snow fence, and this really isn't a snow fence.
It was never a snow fence. The snow fence came as a layered fence suggested by Pat. That's what it's, and that got snipped down when we did the planting. So every time, and what is not correct is we called the office when this first happened, and we called the office when the snow fence was snipped down, and we spoke with Pat, with Carol. She said, wait 2 weeks to bring it to Pat's attention. If we didn't hear in 2 weeks, to go forward to restore the fence, to restore
To
the
restore
fence.
would be to restore the snow fence.
No, to restore this fence, was the substantial fence that was laid.
I don't think there's a doubt that there wasn't a fence here before.
Yeah,
The
there was a fence, but I
the
think
fence
it's
that
been
was-
moved.
The fence that was there before is sort of an open-type fence. So our issue, well, let me keep going. Bill?
No, I'd like to have the issue framed, because I don't live down there, so I don't
So-
quite have the issue framed yet.
So to my the type of fence that's there is permissible, in my mind. I think we've determined that the type of fence, an open fence that water, sand, and things can flow through, is a permissible fence, right?
Yeah.
The question is, from some of the members, is the fence where it was before? Because essentially, we can allow people to put things back where they were previously installed.
If it's their property.
Well,
No, no,
you know
where-
what?
but
No,
where
no,
it
just
was,
a
right,
second, because I think that's where something maybe we need to, if you file a notice of intent, you can only file for work on your property. If you want to work on someone else's property, then they have to be party to your filing, or you have to file independently. But they didn't file a notice of intent, they filed an RDA. And the RDA is really, is a request for a determination. We allow minor activities under an RDA. So we can allow them to put a fence back, a fence that functions properly. In other words, if they wanted to put a board fence, or this was deflecting water or anything towards any neighbors, it would be within our purview to say, you know what, that doesn't work here. Okay? So, but we're also saying in this that the fence went back as it was before the storm. Part of what the request, your request was that we want to replace what we had before. Am I right?
Yes, when it was an...
But that was part of the request, is that we just want to put back something that, what we had before. So the fence is a little different, but essentially it functions the same. It's going to protect your yard and all that. So now it seems to me like now the question has just come down to, is the fence in the same spot as it was before? And just, I personally think that we are here to deal with wetlands or resource issues. So we want to look to see where this is. If a neighbor was in a dispute with another neighbor over whether they could walk to the beach, or somebody built something on their property, that wouldn't come before our board. And I'm not trying to...
Right, no, I agree.
I'm not trying to deflect this thing, but I'm saying,
Right.
we would not be the party to decide...
Exactly. We're to decide that it's right back in the same spot
We're,
it was.
well, I think we're here, A, to make sure that the fence is compliant with something that we can allow at the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And then the question is it in the same spot? And it's difficult. I mean, there's pictures that appear to show that the fence was closer to the house.
I wasn't as concerned whether it was 6 inches or a foot closer or further away as I was to make sure that it was on their property and it wasn't infringing on some other property.
But again, I'm not sure that that is totally our purview.
I get your point.
If there's a neighbor that's aggrieved because they can't use that access or whatever, then that...
Take it to zoning or,
There's nothing
Yeah.
to
And
stop
I'm
the
not trying to
access.
toss the...
No, I got it.
yep, okay,
pass the buck to somebody, but aggrieved, I guess is the right word.
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, to Rich's point, when they were in the last time, we were following how we usually do it for notices of intent, when we said, gee, you really have to show it's your property. Whereas an RDA, it doesn't have to necessarily get into that whole area. It's a resource protection. Is it gonna hurt the resources or not? So we were looking at it more from, prove it's on your property, because we can't approve it without knowing that. But now, after DEP discussions and zoning and DPW, it seems like, we're looking at the resource area, and if it's not on the property, it's someone else has to fight that battle.
Just have an idea or suggestion. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, is the lot 7,500 square feet? Looks like it's roughly 7,500 square feet, so it's like 1/6 of an acre. How many survey companies did you call for quotes? Okay. I would recommend calling 3 or 4. I mean, a property that small, that's not that difficult to do property limit survey, that should take less than a half day, and you should be getting costs for half of that or less. I work in the industry.
But then, why, we're still not going to be able, if the issue is where the fence was and where it is, it's not
Right, but
something.
if you get property limit survey done, right? You get the survey done, and on that same plan, they lay out where the fence is, right? You'll know whether it's within your property limits. And if that's the case, then you should be fine to move ahead.
Right, and then when you see where the
I mean,
property line is.
that's the dispute, is where's your fence relative to your property line, right?
And where it was, as Frank said, and where it was, so if you,
But even if it's, regardless of that, even if it's still within her property limits after the survey,
Right.
you should be fine.
Yes.
right? If she's not, then.
Yeah, that's
then it's
another way- yes.
another issue.
yes.
Is that an issue that this board undertakes? Should you deal with the conservation aspect and the wetlands protection aspect? Or do you deal with ownership issues? And I think that's
Well,
what we just found out.
when you're exercising like grandfather rights, like you
Two
come in here
separate.
and you want to replace like your beach house, it is grandfathered in the exact same footprint that you had the old house. So we approve those things, but they're, when something is grandfathered, like Frank said earlier, you can replace the fence.
That's a separate issue, grandfather.
Right,
Entirely
right.
separate issue.
But
And
you're
is that
talking.
something that you do? I'm very confused.
I guess-
I think that, I mean, I would say, if we can put in here, you know, that we are not marking anybody's property, or, you know, deeming any exclusive rights, all we're saying that this fence meets, you know, our conservation requirements, then I think that's, personally, that's all I would want to do. Say, yeah, the fence meets conservation requirements, and we're not seeing anything else about where it is, or how close it is, or how far away it is. It just meets our requirements, and there's no other stipulations with it.
Let me just flip to the other side, Pat, for a minute and ask this question. If we found out that someone was altering a resource that was not their property, how do we deal with that?
It would be somebody's property, though.
Well, let's say it was the town property. So let's just say that an issue arose where someone was either diverting water or digging a ditch or whatever. It's a violation.
Right.
So let's just say that they're in violation, but they're not on their own property.
Right. I think it's a little different because the determination we were talking about was that it isn't going to be altering a resource
Okay.
area. But if it was altering a resource area, whoever's doing it would face an enforcement order.
Right.
You know, if it was on town property, we'd be going after somebody else.
Right.
Right. But, you know, it's kind of the question of, is this altering or isn't it? If it isn't,
I mean, but
Yeah.
someone could be in a catch-22. Let's just say that you had a wetlands, your property, right? But that wetlands, that your neighbor needed a ditch through your wetlands to dry up their property. So they went ahead and dug a ditch through property that they didn't own,
yeah. if-
right? So who's technically in
Right.
violation?
Right.
Is it
They had
the,
permission, both of them, and if they didn't have permission, I mean, you go after
Yeah.
the person who dug the ditch.
or would you have to go after the homeowner, the owner of the property, because the violation's on their property?
Right.
It's not it's,
Right.
so, in this case, we're assuming that the property belongs to the town of Situate?
No.
It no longer belongs to the town.
So
The town
who-
doesn't own it.
The butters, all the butters have a
Right.
deeded access usually to paper
Okay.
streets.
So,
Do we know that for a fact, that
Yeah.
the butters own it?
Yeah, that's the way pretty much all those paper
So
streets in
then
Hummerock are.
Wouldn't there be a consideration to the other abutter if it's owned by
sure.
the
But
two?
I-
but again,
Frank's-
my
yeah.
question is it really our purview to deal with that? And I'm not trying to pass the buck, but I've never been one to come here and want to impose something on someone that we're not supposed to. We want to deal with what's within our jurisdiction.
And what's
yeah.
the proximity to wetlands? Are we within the
It's in
buffer or
it. It's in a
outside?
it's in a
The whole-
resource.
It's a barrier beach.
Yeah, but it's not
coastal.
alternating the wetland.
Rather than
It's not-
say, rather than say a wetland, on this one, I would say a resource area.
Okay.
It's a barrier beach. So it's, and the barrier beach is subject to a whole bunch of control,
So it's within our purview.
so it's all within our purview.
But we're
Is,
saying that it's not affecting it.
is what they've built there something that we feel is permissible? I think the question is, it is something we could allow.
Right. Assuming it's in the same layout,
Well, that's.
approximate layout.
Approximate
of the
layout.
previous, right.
Right.
It's always, whenever you do a repair.
You're putting something back that was
Yeah, if you're doing a
pre-existing.
repair.
We
or
had this
replacing
discussion
in
with Mr.
kind, it's usually acceptable.
Remember, we just had this discussion with Mr. Doherty at Edward Foster.
Edward Foster Road.
And he wanted to replace a section of fence and some gate and stuff, and we
Yep.
asked him to put it basically back in the same spot.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's perfectly fine.
Right.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think we could go around over exactly where this fence is, and I'm not suggesting that I wouldn't want to know where my property line is and put the fence on my property. And I think Bill's note that if we could put this in, that we're conditioning.
Delineating a property.
All we're
Put language
doing,
in there so that,
we're conditioning the type of fence.
right, we're not buying off on whether it's
But-
within or without, outside of the property lines.
We have a
Makes sense.
couple of, we have a sentence that Carol pulled out that I think everybody has a copy of, and it's,
Yep.
it came from DEP language, talking about there's no conferring of property rights.
Does not grant any
Yeah,
property rights or exclusive privileges.
Right.
Makes sense.
No. That's where I'm at.
That's what he's referring to.
Well, once again, I think we come back to, because you brought up Mr. Doherty's property, and we allowed him to do the fence in the exact same spot. Is this in the same spot or not? I do not believe it's in the same spot. I think it's farther out in the paper street. So I say it's got to go back in the same spot. I mean, if we make, Mr. Doherty wanted to put it, do it differently, so
think-
I don't know.
No, I think it was more that he had to put up the same type of fence. We basically wanted it to be the same type of fence in the,
He wasn't asking to put it
Approximately the
anyplace
same
else.
location.
Yeah.
One last question, comment. Are there any as-bills of where the previous fence was?
There's no asphalt.
Was there any plan done? Was there any geometry layout? It was just put up without a plan?
Oh, it was done in 1959.
59.
Yeah, there's
There's no plan on what was done before? Okay,
and then it was flattened by the storm.
understood.
Things were cleaned up, and then,
Don't really have any engineered or surveyed measurements to go off of.
Mass DEP or the WPA will not be used to address property disputes. Therefore, conservation does not grant any property rights or exclusive privileges. So we can say that the type of fence is permissible. We're not gonna say whether the fence
If
is
it's in the right spot or not.
It seems like a little bit like we're passing the buck, but I don't know what else to do with it.
It's the right thing to do. I mean, if it's not in our jurisdiction, then we should be passing the buck.
I thought it would have been under zoning, but it didn't trigger anything with Neil.
Well, I mean, it's whatever the quorum thinks, you know.
Yeah, let's go around the
I
horn.
agree with your first thing in the situation. If you replace it, it should be an acceptable kind in the same location, but
What they're looking to get is a negative determination, and we went through the type of negatives, and it's not the usual -3, because it's in a resource area. So it'd be a vote whether you wanted to allow a -2 resource area delineation, determination of applicability.
Okay, so do you want a motion, Frank?
Sure.
I make a motion for a -2 here with the stipulation that it includes the aforementioned sentence from E DEP.
You want to second that?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we have 4.
Yep.
3. So that's denied.
So it would be a positive determination.
Yep.
And that would trigger,
A notice of intent, which
notice.
triggers the survey.
triggers a survey.
Do the survey and then
But can I ask you, a survey isn't going to determine where the fence was prior? We're still back to that situation.
Well, wouldn't it make sense, though, that the fence would go on the property line?
If it's been for 53 years in one location, that's kind of harsh, especially when this has all come about because of some action that was very egregious and no action was taken for that. Completely egregious. That's why we needed to protect, to make sure that that fence was restored. It was damaged a little in the storm. It never was down completely.
We do try to deal with all the issues when infractions are made as best we can.
Well, I was late, and so I want to show you this.
We have it.
Yeah, I know. And so I went to Patrick with this, and there was nothing done to this dredging, filling, altering the land. The fence, part of it was taken down by his equipment. Not only did he do this during the time that there was an emergency order for 30 days that allowed any beachfront owner to use heavy equipment, he did it after asking us and us saying, please don't. It's going to take us 20 or 30 years to restore what he damaged and what he filled and altered and dredged, yet what we did was put back a fence that was never not there for a period of time, which was one of the sentences that was used in a letter to us, that the fence wasn't there for a period of time. The fence has always been there. We only replaced it section by section when we could afford it, after we had to spend thousands of dollars to put back the cobble and back all the stone and all the beach grass that he took out, and to replace it, spend $4,000 or $5,000 to try to protect a dune that we've lived there our whole lives. In addition,
And then the snow fence was cut.
and in addition, then
All of it.
then I asked Patrick, and he agreed that we should put dune plantings to try to even minimally, we'll never restore the dune to where it is, but we went to, I can't remember the name of the person, to find out what kind of plantings are okay for that area.
Conditions.
And we did Rosa rugosa, we did catmint, we did, I can't remember.
Beach grass, beach plum.
The beach plum and beach grass, and we planted it there. So not only did we spend the money to put the cobble back, because he did it sneakily, you know, for lack of a better word, I'm not that well versed the way I, talk about these things, but he went and took an emergency order knowing that everybody would turn their heads thinking that this heavy equipment was there because it was a beachfront owner, and did it last minute, and we spent thousands not to have problems with our neighbor, not to create a problem. So I want to know why nobody did anything about this, and in addition, then we spent thousands of dollars putting everything back, and then we put beach plantings where we did, and put a snow fence up, come back last summer to find it clipped at every point.
So I apologize, we have a lot of hearings ahead of it. The issue here tonight was about your project and your notice of intent, or your RDA. We try our best as a commission, and we get plenty of calls for disturbances, and we try to deal with those as best we can. No one's asking you to remove your plants.
He did that already.
Well,
He did that.
we can't
I
do that.
understand.
I mean, we can talk about this all night tonight, but I can't change what was done there. So what we have to do is deal with the projects that are in front of us, and deal with them the way we're supposed to deal with them. So you file an RDA. If the board feels that an RDA is either positive or negative, In this case, they're saying that the board has voted that it's positive, which means that you have to file a notice of intent for the work that you've done.
And how is that going to change the property line?
Okay, I just want to leave, I'm going to leave one, I just want to make a request then. I just want to request that we have a citation to where where the commission has jurisdiction over ownership issues, and I'll leave that here. I just would like, I would like that addressed, because that's what DEP told us, is that ask where the citation is that we have. That's all. They told us that they do not, and the commissions they send the forms to, do not have jurisdiction over ownership.
So we respectfully request that the Conservation Commission provide the citation within the regulation that grants the Conservation Commission the right to regulate ownership issues. And this is from Renee Barry. And
Yes, Christina Dodger and Mr. Mahalo at DEP said you should request that information because they do not regulate ownership issues. And the forms that they provide to Conservation Commissions have that general condition 2 in there because they do not want to be drawn into those type of issues. Specifically, as you've pointed out, and the gentleman pointed out, I don't understand where the other determinations are coming from. It's your commission. Everyone can vote the way they want to, but that should be supported by a regulation that says that you have some kind of.
Well, I don't think this is the last word on anything, so.
Yeah, I
That's
believe
unfortunate.
there's an appeal process too, that if you don't have it in writing, you could call us tomorrow and we could let you know your appeal.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Pass that back to Pat, please. I guess we're on to the Stewart. 160 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. Do I have a,
No, you don't. In the file.
bear with me for 1 second so I can read that.
Take your time. You actually deserve a break after that.
Thanks.
Monster?
That was done pretty well, I think. Spread them out so we can check. Oh, is it the one we have right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so big, it'll be just one for all of us,
Yeah,
right?
why don't you?
Just spread this out right here?
Bring it, I got the letter. Bring it, I can bring it to you
Write something
tomorrow.
down.
Good for me, I feel like the center of attention.
Can you see Richard's
proposed.
Frank, or do you want your own?
What's that?
Want your own, or you gonna look at Richard's?
One of the neighbors here, is that evidence?
Okay, from what Pat
What are we
told us
missing?
today, the foundation.
Oh, no.
Either has to be elevated.
Well, he said he's got him, he just didn't bring him.
I can bring it
replaced. He wasn't
tomorrow.
sure which that they
I
had.
did send them, I
approved.
sent them all
And
certified
then,
mail.
it is gonna be a two-story.
Yeah, here's the scope right here. It's an existing wood frame dwelling.
One of the abutters is here, she received a letter, she can vouch for that fact that it
You
was
know,
sent.
if it's down on 3A.
Yeah.
Oh, next door.
It took us an hour and 15 to get, and then it's
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Storm windows. Thank you for finding the reach.
I can bring them first thing and
He's gonna, I,
Can we do it?
and one of the abutters is here, she can vouch that she received the letter.
Okay.
Wouldn't be able to get a hold of legal counsel tonight.
Well, that's part of the regulation,
Yeah,
is
I
that,
didn't- it's my mistake, I'm speaking out of turn. It's Milton.
Milton.
I have copies of the letters,
I
and I
guess-
have an abutter here to
Right.
vouch for the fact that she received one.
I guess you would be in jeopardy if someone did not feel that they were properly notified. I mean, if we start this thing and anybody wants to, it would be an easily appealed hearing.
But at least we get to have a conversation about the project, and I can get a feel for where we stand.
No, I haven't had this come up before, so I don't know.
We have, and we made them go home.
So
Really?
is the issue that they don't have the green?
Yeah, the green
notifications?
tag.
Right. So if somebody didn't get,
I can,
Somehow.
again, I can bring them tomorrow morning. I have them. I have the receipts from the post office.
Where had you left?
They're in my pile of papers related to this at home. I can bring them first thing in the morning.
I mean, we wouldn't be able to close tonight anyway because we don't have the septic approval at this point. So, I mean, it is gonna take another meeting.
So is it better to start now then?
I don't know about starting without the
We have,
cards.
the other, one of the factors for us is, we can't close on the property until we have gotten through this step. So, and the seller would obviously like us to close, so we'd like to move forward if we can.
I mean, taking testimony without the cards, I don't know legally if we can do that. I mean,
Again, we've always had the notification, and I'm not saying that you don't have it,
Yeah.
but it is a requirement that you do that. And I think for your piece, it does leave you wide open to an appeal.
What kind of a window of time are we talking about though for the appeal process? So if I were to come tomorrow morning with those cards and somebody appeals after that, it's a moot point, isn't it? Because they were notified.
how many abutters were there?
There were 6 or 7, and most of them, actually, there's really only one abutter, and that's Marcia. Everybody else was actually quite far away. There were people at Cushing Lane and.
Yeah, they're
and-
technically though, they are.
Well, they were within 100 feet.
I know
but-
they got them because they told me.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it'd be possible to get those people's signatures tonight rather than, I mean, Milton's a long haul, but. I wonder if-
Yeah,
You know what,
but
you know,
actually,
Pat, we don't have-
Some of them were in New Hampshire. and other
Yeah,
places
we don't
in
have
New
time.
Hampshire, so- No, but again, if I were to bring the cards tomorrow, and granted, there's a leap of faith.
When's our next
that
meeting?
proves that I did send
2
them.
weeks from today, right?
No,
No, it's not.
no, no,
December.
go December 17th.
Yeah.
Oh, December 17th.
Yeah,
So it's
we're
about a
not meeting
month.
the 10th.
Oh, that's right. It's
Well, we're not gonna meet.
So if we have the proof tomorrow, what's the appeal opportunity for people? It's moot then, right? If they weren't here and I can provide evidence that
We're not gonna,
I notified them.
You know
we're
what?
gonna do it tonight anyway.
We always have the, I mean, it's a requirement that they.
And there's gonna be a second hearing anyway, right?
For
Yeah,
approval.
so,
We went through this with, we had a zoning hearing already, and we didn't have to take care of that process. The town took care of that process, so I didn't realize I had to bring it. I'm sure Pat and Carol told me, but I didn't realize. I didn't have to bring it to the last hearing, so I didn't know I had to bring it to this hearing. I'm a registered architect. I've been through lots of these hearings. I've never actually had to bring anything of that sort. So I just didn't.
I don't see how we can do it.
can't talk about it if we don't open it.
We're looking to build a house on an existing foundation.
Time.
Yeah, it's more than someone could appeal and you could lose. It's, we can't open.
We can't open it if we
It's-
can't
it's
talk
our
about it
own-
if we're not gonna open it.
It's regulations and state regulations, so.
Why didn't zoning have to do that then?
Yeah.
Never been on zoning.
Can we continue this so they don't have to re-advertise it?
But we haven't actually opened it.
You haven't opened it.
Yeah, it has been advertised.
Steve?
I think you can open it, not take any testimony, and immediately continue it,
That would be my guess.
and then you don't have to advertise it.
Yeah,
That sounds favorable, right?
yeah. It's the taking of the testimony that, without the abutter cards, I think, that would be the problem.
So then nobody would miss any testimony,
Right,
right?
just
They
opening.
could still be continued and not advertised, okay.
Okay.
I don't understand, because I'm really the only butter, am I not, Frank? Except for the, I
Well,
know, I
Okay,
know
Te-
that-
that's not
Technically,
true.
there's abutters, and we've had issues before. I mean, we had a project that was right next door that drew
oh, you mean, yeah.
hearings from every angle. I realize you're not the same type of project,
Exactly, yeah.
but, but technically, we need this proof
Okay.
to be sure, and it's a rule that we've had, I mean, I've served here for almost 9 years, and we've never opened a hearing without those cards.
Well, it's my fault, I understand that.
Does seem inconsistent
and-
with zoning.
It does, yeah.
I think at some point we have to stick with some of those,
Yeah,
I feel all
well, maybe
All
we
of
should talk
those.
to zoning.
yeah.
All of those.
So,
So we can
We'll
continue, and then they
open
don't
it.
have to re-advertise at least.
right.
So open it, Frank, you know.
Read your
Don't-
little
don't-
thing. No, you
Do I
read your
still,
little
where's
thing.
that piece to read?
Yeah, that's better for me. It also doesn't put our purchase and sale in any kind of jeopardy if you're at least open.
You could have anybody call.
On November 19th, 2014, 6:45 PM, the Town Hall Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Sean Stewart to raise and rebuild a dwelling on property located at 160 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend.
Make a motion to continue.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
What's the date?
I'm
Tom?
going to continue it till December 17th at 6:30.
Okay.
Now, shouldn't we be able to cover all the bases on the 17th?
What we might try to do is take a look at that. There may be the possibility that we can condition this, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, Steve just brought up a good point, too. We should mention that we didn't take any testimony.
Right.
When we did this.
And so you can put that in the notes, okay.
Okay? Maybe in the meantime, you can have some conversation with Pat.
So we're not even going to talk about it?
No,
No, we can't.
All right, sorry about that.
So are we, actually. So are we, sorry. Be careful.
Yeah,
I'll bring him in the morning, I'll get him.
Jay, do you want to pass that back to Pat?
It does,
What about,
what about Mr. Howell?
yeah.
done with
Are we anywhere
Missoula?
with Mr. Howell, or am I just continuing? That, the RDA for Mr.
rough
Howell,
night.
just continuing him. I make a motion to continue the
Yeah.
RDA for Howell, 92 Clap Road, to December 17th.
Yeah, there was emails back and forth this week about getting that out, and it's going to get moved, but it's not going to be as easy as we thought.
Whatever.
So,
Okay.
Do you want to vote on that, please?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
I
Okay.
Okay,
thought we were bringing that to a close, but
I guess not. He can just.
All right, what else do we,
We had somebody scheduled for 7. I don't think that might have been, Greg might have been scheduled for 7.
I don't know, now we just go to
Yep.
garbage.
oh, I got somebody here. So we had somebody for 7. What is this?
What is this?
Oh, one old open.
yeah,
Oh, this one that we added.
that's probably good.
Number 1, Old
Yeah,
Oaken
but
Budget.
what is it?
Does anybody here want to see this? Just depends on which side he sets up the
Oh, I
easel.
know what it is. Want to change, yeah, they would change some stuff.
Cranberry bog?
This is a discussion of Lot 1, Old Oaken Bucket Road.
Okay.
Is this an amendment to their order? Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi.
We did this a long time ago, so it's real Cranberry Bog. Old Oaken Bucket Road is here, there's a Cranberry Bog right here.
Yeah.
This one?
And it was a long driveway, Walnut Tree Hill, other houses that are up in here.
Thank you.
Probably conditioned this thing at 07.
Well, I'm remembering one by a bog where they were gonna move the bog out. Remember that?
Yeah.
Was that?
Yeah.
No, that's
I-
over, I believe that's,
Okay.
those were the ones that are along Old Oaken Bucket Road.
This looks familiar.
This was a while ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
6 years ago.
Yeah, I think so.
All right,
Well, it's all the same water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
area. It's the
Yeah.
same bog.
yeah.
This was I don't know if anybody else was serving on the commission other than myself when we conditioned this lot. It's a very long, narrow lot, and the
Yeah.
driveway runs alongside the bog, and there's
Yep.
also a maintenance road for the bog,
Yep,
so.
yeah, I've been out there this week and I saw there's
Yep.
lots going on. Yep.
Okay, you're up.
Good evening. My name is Gabe Crocker. I'm a professional civil engineer, and with me is Greg Webb of Webb Builders. Greg has bought the lot at 149 Old Oaken Bucket Road, Lot 1. It was before, there's an active order of conditions for the property. And we did bring a copy of the approved plan, which I have down below. And Greg, site work has commenced, erosion controls are in place. Tree clearing is currently underway, and he's roughing in the driveway entrance at this time. Greg's finalizing his plans for the house, and the permitted plan. Is it all right if I get up and?
Sure. You don't pay any extra for that.
The permitted plan contemplated a linear, colonial-style footprint with an attached garage. There's actually a garage under paved driveway from Old Oaken Bucket Road, 560 feet up to the house. And Greg is proposing, we included it, Greg's actually got some photos of the house he wants to build. And we included a copy in the packets that I just handed out to you folks. What we'd like to do, instead of doing the linear arrangement where it was shown on the plan, we'd like to do an L-shaped home that would take better advantage of the view looking out across the bog, and maximize the views from the internal spaces of the home. The overall footprint, the permitted footprint that was shown on the plan for the house is a little over 2,000 square feet. The footprint that we're proposing is just under 1,000 square feet larger than that, and I'll talk about how we intend to mitigate for that in a minute. The second aspect of it, as Greg's looked at the property, is the permitted plans included converting an existing depression area and modifying it into a rain garden. And we're very concerned about the aesthetics of that and potential safety-related concerns having it so close to the house. But we also understand the functional values why that was included in the plans and part of the permit. And then as I went through and reviewed the calculations from the engineer and all the notes and everything from the file, the depression area was primarily acting as a BMP to meet the 80% TSS removal for the pavement that was proposed for the driveway, heading all the way in, because there was a good amount of pavement. And then also recharging out the bottom of it, which is required for paved areas under the regulations. So the first thing that we propose to do to mitigate is to eliminate the pavement. Do a nice gravel driveway in lieu of paving that entire way, which is within, very close to the resource area the entire way. The arrangement as it was permitted was the pavement was going to pitch in this direction, and then there was a 1 foot wide by 4 foot deep stone trench that was going to capture the water. I'd like to widen that to 2 feet. Still provide, actually we're going to increase the amount of area storage capacity in it, but trying to build a 1 foot wide trench 4 feet deep in sand is going to be a losing battle. And so we'd like to do 2 feet wide by 2.5 feet deep, which would be a 5 square foot area rather than the 4 square feet that's approved. And I did submit calculations that'll show you that the gravel, any runoff from the gravel will be fully captured in the trench, given the opportunity to infiltrate it. It'll increase separation of groundwater from the infiltration trench. I noted in some areas, particularly where the low spot in the driveway was down around 73. You do a 4 foot section, you're down to 69. You're into the groundwater table. So we'd like to lift that up and widen it out, do a better job capturing it, give it more area to infiltrate. The rain garden, or this depression area / rain garden was also capturing runoff from the house. It was swaled around the house to capture the roof area as the downspouts came out and to bring it down and around. So we're proposing to capture the entire roof area in place and pipe it, collect it, and then retain it and infiltrate it through underground recharge chambers, so that the entire house roof, for not only the permanent footprint, but the larger new footprint, would be entirely captured, infiltrated in place. So the goal was to more than replicate the functions that the rain garden was providing by increasing the amount of recharge being provided and eliminating nearly 64% of the overall impervious area. The one area you'll see in the plans, inside the L as you approach the house, I think the courtyard would be nice to have the paver look as you pull up there and not have the gravel right up to the house. But again, to mitigate for the impervious area and depression, we're proposing to use porous paver. So that the water can infiltrate directly below it. We'll put in the gravel pad underneath it so that it's fully collected and infiltrated.
We're looking at two pictures here. What's the before and after?
No, there's no house there now, Bill.
There's no
And
house.
so, yeah, but
This is
which
just
one
one-
was?
this is Two different just two views.
Oh,
This is
okay.
the-
I thought one was the
this is the view of
proposed
the
one
garage.
and the one was the revised one.
No, so this is giving you the different
Okay.
angle of the garage, which is on this side.
Okay. And this house is 1,000 square feet?
It's just
or-
under, it's 960 something.
So you're mitigating for 64% of the paved driveway, but we're adding 1,000 feet to the,
You're adding 1,000 square feet of footprint area to the home, but we're removing over 6,000 square feet of pavement associated with the driveway. And then we're taking the entire house footprint and collecting it and retaining the water and infiltrating it in place.
is the footprint of the house outside the original permit?
No,
Oh.
there's no change in the overall limits of work. The proposed house, I can show you on the overlay here. There's the original footprint,
Yep.
and then this is the L for the new one. Remains outside the 50-foot buffer, and the permanent limit of work all the way around remains unchanged.
Thank you.
Pat, do you want to?
Yeah, I think before we go too much further, I mean, they've come in to ask us to review this revised plan, but this is well beyond what a revised plan would be. This would be an amendment. This would require a filing. I mean, if you look at the amended orders or what is required, if you do a minor change on something, this involves engineering, we'd have to have someone take a look at this. You have abutters that had one thing that they came to the meetings and it was approved, and they're gone, this is a different project. And in the end, it may work out better, but we can't do this without advertising. This has to be looked at with a new set of,
You're saying it's a request to amend the order of conditions?
yeah, and that.
That was previously done?
Right, and that would involve
So it's
a notification of abutters
Sure,
and all of that. It's way beyond a minor revision.
When was the order of conditions done? What was the date on it?
06 maybe, or
Yeah.
07?
06 or 07?
Is
This,
there a 5-year window, or did they request to extend it?
there must have been some extensions, plus this
The
Extension Act.
automatic, yeah, there was some
Yeah, that-
automatic.
It is
Yeah.
now.
When the economy was down,
Yeah.
there was an automatic Extension Act.
How
So
long
these,
was the extension for?
It's got here,
Just
doesn't
because I don't know, I'm asking.
5, I think. I think it was normally 3, right? And that was
Two,
5.
then
It was
two.
3 with a
Five.
maximum of 5, and then it was, so it was extended another 5? Okay.
Then is
Well, it
the
was
trench is
3,
gonna be
2,
into the
2,
resource area, right?
and then there may even be another 2.
Think so, no.
but I think they're still, these orders
Gonna
are
be
still
twice as wide.
in effect.
Yeah.
So,
Ask them.
I mean, I think I was probably the only commission member
It's not going.
on. I knew that, I do
Okay.
know that there was a fair amount of discussion with neighbors and abutters at the time. And then they went through great lengths to deal with the drainage and whatnot, which seems like what they're discussing deals with a lot of the problems that people had with the project, but what Pat's saying is that given the amount of changes, it really requires an amendment to the orders
Yep.
as opposed to an informal discussion.
I mean, even the stormwater changes, I mean, you're reducing the pavement and you're getting rid of a basin, and all of that requires an engineer. None of us really could take a look at that and approve it, maybe.
Well, we'd need somebody to go over all your calcs.
Well, if we're going to have to refile,
Yeah.
perhaps we could, if I could continue with the house and refile for changes to the driveway and the drainage. Would that
In other
be
words,
okay?
can-
That would be,
So
that'd be a
if
change.
if for right now, they wanted to just come in and change the footprint of the house and not talk about changing the driveway or the detention pond, and said, can we change the shape of this house? Is that within the purview of an informal discussion?
I mean, I think the issue would be the abutters were attending meetings and one house was approved and now a different house is being built. I mean, I'm
Well, I
just,
think what got approved was a footprint.
Yeah, but we're enlarging the footprint of the house by 986 square feet.
By a third, 30%.
Well,
It
is
was 3,000.
is the footprint changing, or is just the,
It
is
says
there
right
another
here on
level
the
being
front
added in
page.
plan view?
No, the
No,
footprint's
it's
changing.
it's gonna be, it would be an L-shaped building versus the linear.
L-shape added,
Yep.
okay.
If you
Rather than
probably
have a
don't,
garage under, I have attached garage instead. That's where the L is. So what I'd like to do is continue with the house and then come back with a plan showing,
Continue with the house,
really-
but
what I
not
really
another one.
want to do is remove that rain garden and, grade that off and fix it.
Okay.
So it was.
Well, like you said, Pat, these are all
2,000.
changes under the law.
right, I mean, if we had had this conversation a month ago, we could be opening the hearing now, but we
No, it's
saw it this week.
too big.
It's all changes, yeah.
It's almost 1,000 feet bigger.
Nope, yeah, understood.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we have a
Existing order
responsibility
conditions.
to allow the project that was approved to be built, because all the abutters and everybody else that had any interest, so.
so right now, they're clearing the lot and preparing the driveway and stuff under the existing orders,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, and silt sock is down, and
And all of that's taking place because there's an existing set of orders. So,
Just don't pour that foundation.
you're saying that to change the shape of the foundation,
square footage of the structure, I mean,
The trench.
You know, on that end, if we're just talking about the footprint and for now moving forward under the existing order, we could commit to capturing and infiltrating the additional building square footage so that there's no net increase from any of the runoff calculations.
because it's all within the allowed area for work. I mean, I guess that's the part that I look at. I understand what you're saying, they can't change the driveway, they can't, we're not gonna say you can't build a detention, you're not gonna build a detention pond, and we're not gonna commit to allowing a change in the driveway or that detention area, though we may decide ultimately that that's not a bad idea. That has to go before hearing. I'm just wondering if the change in the foundation is within an area that was allowed to be disturbed, if that can be changed.
I mean, under an amendment, the question is, under an amendment, can you continue at work that's different from the originally approved plan? I mean, I'd be glad to call either the attorney, town attorney, or DEP and see what they say on that.
Well, let's look at it the other way. What are you allowed to amend?
If you're
How do you
working in the-
get your arms
If
around
you're doing
that?
site work, and you're gonna be doing site work anyway, and we have a limit of work, you could do site work in there, but the house is changing, so do we allow the house to go ahead and start to be built, and then find out that it's not gonna get approved, and then you're ripping apart a house? The site work is gonna be done anyway, so it gets complicated if you allow work without a permit, basically.
So in this case, what's the delineation between amending the existing order of conditions and having to file a new notice of intent.
Well, it's not, we're not asking them to file a new notice.
I'm not saying we are. but
We're
what's the-
saying-
My question is, what's the delineation between those two?
The,
Amending the order of conditions.
like, the three-
Orders,
the
we
three-
would have just advertised that there's
Yeah.
an amendment to the existing order.
I think the fees are different, too. Like an amendment, fees are different.
Same amount as the.
Well, the advertising, but I don't know about all
Same
the
as the original.
the original.
Penny?
This is almost identical to Indian Trail. That was a much smaller house we approved. The fellow wanted to buy it, he came in, we told him he had to refile, amend it, because he made a bigger house. And that did, the calcs and everything had to be redone because it was a bigger house. So, I say, he's got to file. This is not just a little fix, it's a
It's a
much
request
bigger
to
house.
amend the order
Well,
of
we,
conditions.
on Indian Trail, we made him
Okay.
refile.
Well, not refile, but amend.
Well,
Amend the
amendment,
order
well,
of
he had to
conditions.
file, yeah, what wasn't just, because he came in with the same question that you had, just to, change the plans a little. Well, it was more than a little in this.
Right, and that's what you get into, that we've had people not build the house exactly the same way, but what is your definition of significant
Yeah, well-
change?
986 square feet is pretty big to me.
In terms of being able to proceed with work, I mean, I think it's fair to say that they could proceed with work that is going to be the same as.
It's already permitted.
That's on the proposed plan.
Mhm.
We could proceed, but anything that's new, we just need to go through the formal channels on
Well, that's obvious.
to amend the order of conditions. Is that
Mhm.
fair to say, Frank?
Come on.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, they could go along and start building what they already have permitted, which in some ways would be a shame, because long-term, I think eliminating this driveway and doing some things, those were some of the big problems that, as I recall,
Yeah.
that folks had with this project back when it was originally proposed. The driveway's fairly close to the bog, and so there was issues with how to deal with the runoff from the driveway. And so, in my mind, a lot of the things that they're proposing eliminates problems that were an
Right.
issue. But I understand what Pat's saying, that,
I don't think we're making a judgment on the value of what they're doing. It's just legally, I mean, we have to be a board that has everything out in the open and has
Sure.
things.
Yeah.
I look at it as a 30% increase in the footprint is more than minor.
Yeah.
So I think, as much as I regret it, I really do, because I like a lot of the other changes we were out there today, and I think it has to be amended. I really do.
And as important in that, too, is the stormwater basin that was out there. I mean, that was put in there for a reason. You really have to justify why you're getting rid of that and calculation-wise and everything. But, the push is more toward that type of a wetland treatment system rather than some of the other things that are going on.
But overall, I mean, it's not a
No,
massive
nobody's
amount of
saying
changes.
it's a bad
Just got to go
plan.
through the proper channels,
Right,
right?
right. I mean, it slows you down, you lose time. We understand that. I don't know how we can do anything about it.
Well,
Huge change.
what I'd like to do then is at least, I think what I'm hearing is I can't build my garage. The house is inside the footprint, so I can go ahead and build the house, but not the garage. I am at risk, I guess, because the house, I think, should have a garage. And, but I want to keep moving forward, and so I think what I'll do is start the house, come back with an amended plan, and try to get the garage approved later on. Do you think we can get on that December 17th meeting?
You get,
Oh, yeah.
ask Carol,
Be
you
an
gotta
issue,
get
right?
the.
Yeah.
Right, you have to notify the abutters again?
Do it, they gotta notify the abutters.
And is
I have to
it
advertise.
10 days prior to, right? So we'll try to
Oh,
get
yeah,
that
you
in the
definitely-
next couple of weeks.
You should be able to make it, but you got to move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you can get
Yeah,
if you can get your engineer to get it done.
I'll get it done.
I'll try.
I mean, if it's a pouring of concrete, I mean, if you poured your foundation for the house that's on the regular footprint, and then you went through the process, and then you came back and did the pouring for the
Well,
garage,
that-
then you wouldn't have to do a second notice down the line.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think that's what he's saying he wants to do.
Yes.
Right.
Well, he's talking about coming back with another notice, I thought.
No, he's just saying he'd like to proceed with what he can do.
Right, that's what I'm
Not-
saying.
yeah.
Well, but just let's make this clear. The house, the new proposal, I'm looking at the new proposal over the existing. So if you build the house without the garage, it's essentially the same size footprint.
So no, yes, they
So
can proceed with that,
Here
sure.
was that house. And here's this house. So it's slightly off angle and a couple of jogs,
But
but,
generally within the same footprint. So
Right.
Believe it for your last thing
proceed with the
now.
work.
so the house could go forward without the garage, and then they could,
And no
Doesn't hold him
closer-
up, and we
That's a
take care of
great
what we need
idea,
to
yeah.
No closer to the
legally.
resource area then?
Yeah.
nope.
No. And in the meantime, get everything into us, and let's
December
hopefully,
17th.
in December, we
See you
can.
then.
Okay.
Then everything's on the up
The
and
house will
up.
be half done by then, right?
Everything will be done.
But everything will be on the up and
Pat,
up.
take a look at, maybe you
We'll
wanna-
submit another photo of the
Yeah,
photo.
I saw both of them.
I mean, I think it's so close that,
Oh, yeah.
Right, no, that falls within the purview of,
You think the structure will be up or just be foundation at that point? So you probably on its way,
so here is the proposed house,
yeah.
and here's what they're proposing to build.
Yeah.
So there's a deck that gets a
yeah,
little
so
bit closer.
Yeah, take that off. Yeah.
Which the foundation's already poured. This is the.
Now, that I would say is a very minor.
Still digging.
Right, I mean, but.
In the
But it's
50s,
the time of year, you know.
in the 50s,
Yeah, right, not anymore.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, where's the
It's a pretty house.
50?
Thank you. You're gonna look good there.
Yeah, I think it'll look great.
He's gonna show you the 50, right?
Sure.
Right here.
Like if you were gonna do
That's the 100.
different style,
Okay,
a different,
so it's well outside.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay?
Yeah,
Yeah, that meets this
Sounds like
middle
it's
chambers,
reasonable.
yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Fairly important, though.
Yeah, that whole new notice of how amended is.
We greatly appreciate your time, and we'll see you on the 17th.
We need a motion here to, oh, actually, we
Do you
didn't
think
know.
you could change the color of the trim just a little?
How about the gutter?
Follow that plan, pictures of the street.
Here. Are these, Pat, are these ours?
One of them is,
Are these ours, or are they?
He's back?
Yeah, I'll finalize these back.
No, but bring him back on the 17th.
all right. Hopefully see you then.
I don't think we have purview over colors.
No?
No.
Oh, shucks.
I don't want him either.
Oh, shucks.
We know the painter, right, Frank?
Okay.
I'd be happy in that house.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't have ocean
That's
problems.
the big concern.
I figured it was.
Where you'd be happy.
I just wanted to share that with you all.
okay,
Take your cranberries, add a little vodka.
all right, yeah.
Look in the box.
Good enough.
See you, man.
Nice.
See you in a month.
Anybody got
That
a
was the best yet.
elastic band?
I mean,
Good elastic band for that.
We're usually easy as pie, right?
I just can't believe, do you not know how many hearings we had for that piece of property because of that driveway?
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's why I think,
Now they want to take it out. It's like, why couldn't you have been the one to apply?
Open the can back up, right?
No, I mean, it's.
well, no, because now. it's
They want to
gonna-
make better changes,
it's
really.
gonna
Right, now they
be
wanna
good.
do
It
something
won't be
better.
blacktop.
I hear you,
They
but
fought the
still,
harder
you
battle.
gotta notify all the abutters.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but it.
That's what I mean by open the can
There
back up.
there won't be that.
Yeah, hopefully it's
money.
fine.
Okay, let's, where are we? Keep rolling. Pat, what are we?
All right, what are we gonna do now?
we have two parties that I recognize here, so.
Let's do it.
Go down the,
Where you start,
The-
where are you?
we either have 158 Border or 92 Marion.
Which is gonna be the quickest?
Are you, hey Pat, are you with somebody too? Would you have a hearing coming up? Yeah. Oh, okay, all right. Just wanted
All right,
to
so
go
let's
on
do 158 Border Street.
Should be interesting.
Mike, don't you miss this?
I'll sit up here with you, Mr. Moskowitz.
Good.
Being the nearest to butter.
Okay.
So if you guys want to talk about what's going on since, I know I talked to Joe and I talked to, and then Eric came in and reviewed the files, the old files that go way back.
Rick.
Eric.
Oh,
Rick.
okay.
I go by Rick, but,
Okay.
yeah, I think real quick, maybe we should summarize where we are in the process with everyone on the board, and just so,
Sure. Lisa, do you,
Yes.
so is everybody familiar with this?
Yep.
yeah, we were out there.
I was out there
There
last
today.
week.
Okay, all right. So I think the general idea is there's some things there were some misunderstandings with Mr. Kalishis back in 2009, and things that weren't finished, that maybe weren't completed, but apparently that's what he had done that in the past, where that was fairly typical for him to just say, just go do it with your engineer, and we did it, and then we had those massive floods that caused basically the flooding, really in 2009, 2010, and they're saying that our neighbors were saying that the digging to fix the water line to the house had altered the stream, the intermittent stream that would flow underneath the driveway seasonally during the wet season, and that by altering the course of a water body stream resulting in extreme flooding of abutting properties, and that's what's on the enforcement order. And what we were asked to come up with a plan. We came up with a plan, and my engineer said it wouldn't be ready for 10 days, and Vinny said, I need this done right away. Joe's here, he would not take my word for that. He spoke to Mr. Kalishis too, the excavator, Mr. Bonomi here. Michael's in a butter to the property as well. We haven't heard him speak on the matter. He knows the intermittent stream quite well. It flows through his property. I know that everyone would like to wish we could have done this. It could be 2009 and we could be doing this, at that point and doing it correctly, and Mr. Kalishis was still here and all that. But we're not in that situation. We did create the plan. The engineered plan that we put together, that our engineer did, Bob Crawford, said that the ponding on the north side of this intermittent vernal area is not causing any of the driveway is not causing any of the ponding on the north side of the intermittent stream. That's in the letter from the engineer that we've had done. He has drawn up the plan, what we did do, and we can talk about why we ended up going with that route, how high the ledge is underneath my driveway, why we weren't able to get down to the pipe was put a foot above the vernal area. And I think in the end, my case is that we have a strong result. There'll never be flooding on the north side again. There will never be flooding over there. They will have an intermittent vernal area like we do on our side of the property as well. The pipe will take any flood out of that off their property.
You're saying it will today?
No, we will never have a flood on the north side of that driveway again. On the Campbell property or the Butler property, we will not have a flood.
Tomorrow, we won't?
We never will.
Thing.
We never will, because the water from that pipe, the culvert that we put in 4 or 5 years ago, will take that flood water from their properties onto my property and onto the Blakey farm.
I'm Michael Blakey, sorry.
Yeah, no, I know who you are. See, I am sympathetic to you because I was on the board when this was going on, and I have told the other members, I believe everything you're saying happened, but what I'm seeing today is it isn't working. I was out there yesterday, okay, not today.
Yeah.
Because they had a different scenario today.
Yeah.
When I was out there yesterday, it was like on the north side, in the area where the wetlands is and there's wetlands plants, that was like a pond.
Yeah.
It was right at the lip of the pipe, but it wasn't going into the pipe. all
I do-
right?
I do not believe that's
No, let
flooding.
me just finish, okay? This was yesterday.
Yeah.
I walked over to the other side, and there definitely was water getting through underneath the pipe, I
Yeah.
would say, because I watched the water run.
Right.
Onto Mr. Bleaky's property.
Right.
Today, when they went out, it was down. So, yes, water is getting through underneath, but I think our problem today is that the pipe at the elevation it's at isn't working. It isn't working.
No, I'd like,
Well, no, stop for a second, please.
I think.
First off, what I want to do is
Yeah.
get to the issue that we really have to get to for this hearing, and that's what I want to make sure that we're clear on, so we're not talking about a whole bunch of
Yeah.
stuff that we don't need to talk about.
No.
There was, I think I served on the
Yeah, you were there.
commission at the same time as you did, and the problem was, a bunch of work went on in the driveway, and things got changed. It was a perception that water is backing up that didn't used to back up. The agent went out, looked at this piece, and then we sort of have a dead trail. And you've got some folks in the room tonight that can address what they felt happened there, which we can do. I think one of the pieces that Pat's brought up is whether or not the pipe that was installed is compliant with the regulations.
State regulations.
That's
they had
right.
Stream crossing
So I really don't want to, I don't
No,
want to
but
go...
that's what I'm saying.
But I don't want to go around on, we're not here to engineer that pipe, we're not here to figure out water that's above it. Somebody says something about vernal, but I don't know that we have any real, true vernal pools on that. I don't think anybody knows
Certified,
that,
I don't
so I don't know why...
it's never been identified.
Right, so let's stick to what we know, deal with the issues that are at hand.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just, I've lived there, I've lived on Border Street on our farm for 59 years. I used to play in the backyard here at Mrs. Campbell's property when I was 9 years old with the Garrity kids. Believe it or not, there was 11 kids and 2 parents living in that house. And that in the fall and the spring, dependent on the amount of precipitation, the backyard was, the lower part of the backyard was always wet. My very close friend, Steve Lilly, 2 previous owners of that house who lived there for about 10 years, he always made sure that the area before the inlet to the old stone drain, and I'll explain this quickly, the farmers, and because the Moskowitz property used to be part of our farm years ago, the way the farmers used to take care of it is they'd build up a stone drain like this, and they would find a bunch of very flat stones that would go across it, and they would have a stream crossing. I have a number of those still on the farm. So anyway, Steve used to have his vegetable garden way down back, and he always had to plant late because it was always wet. And we actually, probably 28 years ago, pulled a couple of stumps out, red maple tree stumps out where the inlet to that old stone culvert was. And when Rick got into his original problem, which predicated putting a new pipe in, he called me up and asked me to come down, and what I observed was either the previous owner, the Childs, or Mrs. Campbell had been dumping all their yard waste and brush right in front of the inlet to that old stone culvert. And I told Rick, I said, because he told me that he was getting into a conservation problem. And having served on the commission, he asked me to take a look at this, and I said, you need to take pictures of this. Whether you did or not, Rick, I don't know. So anyway, so Mr. Bonomi came in, and he was told, Vinnie said, get a pipe in here, and fix it, and get it done. So the next
situation was, is that Vinnie asked me, he said, hey, I'm gonna be up in your area, why don't you come over and take a look at the Moskowitz thing? And I said, oh God, this is getting worse, and he said, yep. And so we went and took a look at it. Joe had just finished cleaning the whole area out, and it was all ledge, and Vinnie said, put the stone in, put the pipe in, cover it over, and get it done. So, the reality of the situation is that you have the driveway, you have the pipe, you have the crushed stone underneath the pipe, and you have the ledge. And that has been there since the glaciers came through here. Now, Pat, if I'm not mistaken, unless somebody changed the Wetlands Protection Act or the Scituate Town bylaws, there is still no fracking or blasting of ledge in a resource area.
Haven't come across it, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in the regs
So,
or anything. Yeah.
and in that particular situation, even if somebody was to get to permission to blast or frack the rock in a resource area, you may be creating more groundwater coming up through the ground. But the fact of the matter is that piece of ledge has been in there since Earth was created, and and that's not going to change. So the pipe is at this level, and whatever level the surface water is will go through the pipe or the crushed stone. If it goes down below the level of the ledge, that's where the water is.
Just to back up.
Thank you for your time.
The work in the driveway that started the perceived issue that water's being backed up was to repair a broken
Water line, yeah.
And that's when Mr. Bonomi excavated and installed a new line,
Yeah.
right?
No, he didn't install, he dug, there was a leak in the line.
So we just repaired?
No, there wasn't an install, so he would take a couple shovels, and you may want to speak to it.
There ended up being more than one leak. So we went out farther, cut the pipe, put a new section all the way through.
So where that wetlands area
Where the
is?
crossing actually is, there were like 2 or 3 leaks right in there.
Okay.
So, what are you gonna do? Fix them all or just?
So you replaced the length of pipe
Yeah.
in that section of the driveway?
Right, right.
So obviously that disturbed an area in
Yeah,
the driveway.
I'm gonna say it's probably, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 feet.
Okay.
I just want to say
It's just-
one thing
Yeah.
about the way the water always came out. It didn't come through the stones. It always came out of the ground, and I said to Michael one time, God, it seems like it's the water's a spring. It seems like even before the incident, it didn't come through the stones. It came because of the elevation and the way it must go through the ledge.
bubble
It
out.
bubbles up, and it still bubbles up. It doesn't come through those stones. It never did. It always came out of the ground.
Well, actually, it comes through the stone.
It comes through the stones, but it comes through not through
It's a crack or whatever.
Not through, not what you can see. It never came through like up on the stonework, like busting
Well,
through.
essentially, your driveway acts as a little bit like a dam for that surface water. There may be...
Now, actually, there's a wall on her property.
Yes, there is.
That when you don't clean your little pond out, leaves and everything gather against the property line wall and block the flow of the water. The thing will never fill up. Can't.
Right.
But the Butler property, the issue that I'd be concerned about with the Butlers, the second property next to the Campbells, is that fill that was put in there. If you remove that fill, and we're talking big stumps like this, that were cut, and I don't know why they were put back there, lots of grass that's now built up about this high, so you see the vernal, the stream is building over here, it's this high. If this wasn't here, then it would only be this high across the area.
But I think for the commission right now, I mean, regardless of these pieces, if the neighbor can or won't clear their property or whatever, and they'd have to get permission to do that, the issue that I see that we really have to decide on is there was an order to...
Yeah, the enforcement
Yeah.
order.
Do you see anywhere where it says in here about mass guidelines in the enforcement order? Does anybody see that where it says?
Rick, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, whether they were in there or not, they were in place at the time. I
Right.
mean, it was a state.
All the mass guidelines aren't written in an order. So what does the order say?
2009, and it was for altering course of a water body stream resulting in extreme flooding. And then resource areas shall be identified, restoration plan shall be filed, an engineer shall be brought in to do the plan. So for most of us, a couple of people are on the commission, but for everybody else, all we have is an old enforcement order and a lot of back and forth. I never did this, you did that.
Yeah.
And the driveway was widened at some point too. I mean, there's the original gravel driveway. Now, where it crosses there, it's 25 feet wide probably at the top there, where it's all mulch and...
It was like that before I went.
I've been snow plowing that driveway since the Stantons owned that, so that's gotta be like almost 40 years. And, sorry, Rick, I hate plowing that driveway. And there really hasn't been any additional width to that driveway. And it's always been a concern, because the way it slopes off, that if we have a really bad storm, and it's hard to see, that I'm gonna slide off and go off the bank. So I can attest to the fact that it really hasn't been widened.
But-
It may be a couple of 3 feet, but not.
But again, the issue to me is how do we deal with the piece of this enforcement order that was issued, and then what was done, and we have to fill in that middle piece. And you're saying that you were there with the agent, and that he authorized that pipe.
No, I was there with Vinnie Kalicious.
The
Because
agent.
Vinnie called
The
me
a-
up and everything was pulled back, and there was. There was all the
We're
ledge.
lacking something in writing or anything that says this, so.
I just have a question, not to interrupt. So there's a letter here that's from a professional engineer, right? Robert Crawford. What's the cliff notes? I mean, this is a professional, right? That is, a licensed engineer in this subject matter.
That was done after the fact, after the pipe was put in.
Right, so he came out, made an assessment, wrote a letter, and it's pretty much a position statement, right? And it's stamped and signed. I read through it, what's your interpretation of the cliff notes of this letter?
Well, this is existing conditions letter, pretty much, and we're
Right.
going back to an enforcement order based on something that happened a long time ago. So he kind of,
Understood.
and he has a plan that shows what it looks like now, but
Right.
that wasn't part of the enforcement order. That was, what the applicants,
We've done an effort to
Right,
try to
right.
resolve the matter.
Right.
Well, Joe, wasn't Crawford the original, he originally sized the pipe?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
He was in after the fact.
And I haven't been out to the site, so I'm not gonna claim to be an expert, but some of the statements in here, you're saying the inlet pipe is above the existing stream bed elevation.
It's true.
Now, existing elevation, is that mean high water, is that mean low water, streams vary in elevation, right?
Yeah, it's like, it's a perched pipe.
Sure.
It's well above where the stream level is, so it'd be a tough effort to get there. It takes flooding of that area. I mean, I think
There's
what...
specific dimensions in here, too. It
Right.
says it would have to pond to a depth of 12 to 15
Right,
inches.
right. I mean, we
I'm just
don't
asking
have
more
pictures
questions than
showing
answers.
what it looked like a long time ago. If it was a stream that was flowing and that was going under the rocks, it's a lot different situation now. There's a lot of dead trees, there's a lot of phragmites, there's a lot of things.
Guys, real quick, on August 6th, I received a letter that requested that if I do not have an engineer plan, to get one.
Right.
And I got that, and I paid $1,500 for it, and now you're saying it's not what you wanted to do?
No.
Engineered
that's not what we're
plan,
saying.
proof of having done the work with an engineer the first time.
No, it says here, you will need to have an engineered plan reviewed and approved by the commission. If there is someone approved from the past, please forward to have it, do one now.
Right, if you didn't have one showing how this problem could be fixed the first time, you need an engineer to go in there and show you how to fix it now. Not what it looks like now, we know what it looks like now. You would need someone to say, well, this will solve the problem. So an engineered plan is what was asked for originally, in the enforcement order? Get an engineer and get a plan in.
Can I ask?
So,
what
Mr.
is the
Kalish
problem?
said that it
Well,
wasn't.
again, he's
So-
not here, and.
Okay, so-
But he does that all the time, and we know that. We have
Can I-
witnesses that that will attest to the fact that he will say, no, I don't have time to wait for the plan, let's go ahead and do it. We know that he's done this, he's done that, he's always done that, so we're back to,
One more comment, and Bill, you can follow up. It does say here that there was a topographic survey done, which is a part of what should have been done for a full engineered system, right?
Yeah.
And then, normally you do hydraulic calcs, and then you size the pipe, and obviously it's to be in accordance with DEP regulations. So it sounds like a good portion of what should have been done legally was done. What we don't have is a plan, an engineered plan, even if it's an as-built of the existing, of both ends of the pipe, showing that, hey, it's backed up by engineering calculations and it's in accordance with DEP regulations and conservation.
you have this attached to the letter? This was from the engineer.
But that's not stamped or signed or anything, right?
I think the original copy was.
Can I try to clarify something from my
May
own
I-
understanding?
I'd like to ask a question,
Yeah, well,
Joe.
let's-
Okay. so
why don't we just follow our normal route
Okay.
here?
I already said my piece.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. From my understanding, if I was sitting over on that table, what do you want me to do? Okay, the town goes out, the conservation agent comes out, understandably, we don't have any definitive things in black and white, and the conservation agent says, here, do this here now. So they went and did this here now. And then he came back out and said, is this what you want? And the conservation agent said, yes. So, as far as I'm concerned, the town asked them to do something. We don't have any definitive proof that he did or didn't say it, but we've got 3 guys here in the room saying we followed the instructions according to what he wanted. So I don't know what else can be. Then we asked for an engineering plan, they got the engineering plan. I don't know what else can be reasonably asked of
Okay.
these people.
Now I have a question. My understanding was that, that we have an old enforcement order, and it required engineering plans prior to any work, and also would have the state and the DEP stream crossing standards that were supposed to have been followed at that time. Is that correct?
That's what that says. That's right.
Okay. So.
What's
none of this
what's
was
the
done.
date on that letter? The date of that letter?
I don't see that, it says to restore to the
That might be, is that
original-
an email? Or is that a, yeah?
The enforcement order, right? Are you talking about the enforcement order?
That's probably an email that I wrote in reference to the
Yes.
enforcement
Yeah,
order.
I was,
Okay,
I was
so-
confirming with you what
Right. Whether-
has to be done.
Right, whether the commission or the agent mentioned stream crossing standards the first time around, they were in effect. So, I mean, it's state, a state regulation that,
Well, the engineer would know this. This is something that I wouldn't know.
you probably wouldn't know.
But the engineer, if I gave this to the engineer, which I did, and he developed his plan, he was ready to go, he would follow that. So he did follow, I'm sure he followed it. This guy's he's an engineer, he's in
No,
here.
no,
Bob Crawford was.
He wasn't involved at the
This
time,
engineer this is an after-the-fact drawing.
No, but Bob Crawford was involved in the original 2009 event.
Where is that plan?
There's no plan.
We have
There's
no plan
Because
for
he
that.
didn't
There
have
wasn't
time.
any, that's the whole point. Vinnie said, get it done, kid, hurry up.
But Crawford sized the pipe. This is according to Mr. Kalishis.
There's just no stamped plan to back it up.
Yeah, it's not good.
Okay.
Right. You can see why we're having a problem with this. There
Right.
are no stamp plans. The person who supposedly gave the approval is no longer around.
And
We
the-
have an enforcement on black
the-
and white.
And the repair isn't in compliance with
With
the
engineering
requirements.
standards or with,
Or with DEP.
right, right.
Yeah, but we went by the agent. The agent told us, get it done.
And I was there when Vinnie came to inspect and took a look at all the ledge and everything, and he told Joe, put the pipe in, get the stone down, get it done. I was there. You don't have to believe me, but I'm, you know, a former commissioner on this board.
But now we're at a point where we have aggrieved neighbors, whether whether we feel that that's correct or not, can look at this piece and say, well, it wasn't done the way it was supposed to be done.
Well, if there wasn't a plan, how would they know how it was supposed to be done? And if there was no maintenance done on Mrs. Campbell's property to where the water flowed through the wall and into the outlet or into the inlet, I mean, the maintenance part of this issue is very important.
And by the way, I'm not saying one way or the other, because for all we know, that water always backed up there. And you're saying...
Well, I don't know, no, it was always taken care of when the Lillys owned that property, because Steve Lilly always took care of that. And whether it was the
But there was
owners
always
afterwards,
water in
the
there.
child's, but there was always, in the fall and the spring, like I said, depending on amount of precipitation, there was always water in the back there. And, but Steve always made sure that that area was always cleaned out so the drainage would be improved. Now, whether it was the owners after the Lillies, which were Helene and Chris Childs, who sold the house to Mrs. Campbell, whether it was they that didn't maintain it, or whether it was Mrs. Campbell that didn't maintain it, but it appeared to me when I took a look at it 5 or 6 years ago with Rick, that the landscaper had been depositing yard waste and brush and everything in that particular area, which is the wall that Joe referenced that goes across in front of the inlet to the old, well, what is now the new pipe. That's when I said to Rick, I said, you need to take pictures of this because this isn't your problem.
Is the correct path forward, this is just a question, to file an after-the-fact notice of intent?
That's one option under an enforcement order you could file, but that would be to correct the flow of the stream and...
Right, I mean, it would need to be a stamped plan, an as-built plan, which I think is mainly what this is, but it would need to be backed up with engineering calcs. If in fact it is in accordance with DEP, it sounds like it may or may not be.
On the report from Crawford, does his report say that that pipe is adequate to handle the flow there?
The way I read it, I'm not sure.
Because I couldn't figure,
To me, it's inconclusive.
Right.
He's non-committal.
There's some pros and cons to the letter, I think. It
doesn't,
I think the path forward,
that doesn't say that pipe is
doesn't
adequate.
say or it is or it isn't.
I mean,
But I think that the proper legal path forward is an after-the-fact notice of intent.
Yeah,
To install the pipe, and it has to be backed up, and it has to be permitted in accordance with a normal project, almost like a property owner trying to get a pier permitted that was just built. Well, there's regulations for that, so if that happened, they have to go through conservation, Chapter 91, Corps of Engineers. This isn't navigable water, but they still have to go through, you still have to go through conservation and the proper legal channel. So I think, in my opinion, it should be an after-the-fact notice of intent filing, and it all needs to be in accordance with local and state regulations.
Yeah, I think one of the problems is we're trying to get it to be the way it was, to restore it the way it is, and we don't know the way it was. I mean, was it a trickling stream that always backed up there? Was it a ponded area? Was it a running stream that went through the rocks? And we don't know what the goal is in the end. We just know that there are people claiming to be
Because the reverse would be, let's just say that you went in there and blasted that all out and made a big clear area, and the water flowed freely.
Yeah, onto my farm. Thank you.
Well, that's my point. That's my point, that maybe what is here functions as well as something before. How do we know that?
Right.
Can DEP be invited, seeing there's the DEP stream crossing standards?
Because if he essentially clears out too much, again, it flows quicker onto the abutting property, or B, it doesn't hold back some water that created a wetland or something on the other side. I mean, it's essentially, by clearing that out, he could wind up draining an area that
Right, you're altering it either way.
From a regulatory standpoint and from an abutter standpoint, is there a solution that you arrived at?
I'd like to make a clarification too, from what keeps coming up. This is an intermittent stream. It is not a constantly running stream. In the dry seasons, it is dry, and it's dry all the way down through my farm, all the way underneath Border Street, and then into the Gulf. The only, I wish we had a dry ease board. There's the Campbell property, there's the bridge now with the pipe, or the stream crossing with the pipe. Then it goes through the Moskowitz property, and then in behind the Barton property, there is a corner of the stone wall that is like a big stone dump.
Do you want to talk to the plan? We have a plan right here, right?
I'm not sure if it's gonna show what I'm talking about, but I'd be happy to look at it, yes.
Where do we go from here? That's
Right,
it.
yeah.
we want him to do.
I just want to know what Pat feels is the best
Right,
process.
where do we go from here?
Right, okay, no, this is the corner of the wall right here where I'm talking about. This is the stream crossing, and this is basically, you know, it's dry during the dry seasons, but in the wet seasons, there's always water running through it.
And this is the pipe here, right?
Yes, that's a pipe there. And so, here in this corner is a big old stone dump. And then the water comes down through the farm here, and then it goes, there's another stream crossing here on the farm property, and then it takes a 90-degree and then goes down, all the way down to Border Street. The only thing that I could suggest to try to help the situation is I have not maintained this section of the brook, and it has grown up with some 6 or 8 inch red maple trees, and...
But that's not what's creating the issue that we're...
This is the issue,
Yeah,
right?
right, but I mean, if it would help to alleviate any backup during wet seasons.
No, I don't think that'll be...
Pat knows that because of the farm, I have a lot of exemptions from the DEP, and I could go in here and fix the brook at that section, so during the wet seasons, it might flow better.
Down on yours?
Yeah.
But that's not gonna affect the rate of water transiting this driveway.
They won't change anything up here at all.
Yeah, no.
I do. Topography generally runs down this way. I mean, 45 down to 35, so everything runs this way, right? And then
But the invert of that,
invert here is 3577 to 3489, so it's a drop of about a foot.
so essentially that pipe is a foot higher than this area.
Yep. So everything generally goes this way.
I was there,
That's dictated by the height of the ledge.
The pipe is 2 inches higher than the water runs through. That's what it is. You go out there and really look at where the pipe sits and where the water runs under the pipe, on top of the ledge. It's only a 2-inch difference. That's all it is.
Pat, can I ask you a question? This was brought on by the repair of a water line. And then in the process, they installed that pipe to alleviate a problem. There was no pipe there before, or crushed stone, or a French drain, or?
No, all there was rocks, just placed, basically, like an old-time French drain.
Like a French drain?
Yeah, okay.
Which is what I referenced
Now-
when I first started speaking.
We couldn't put the rocks back like that. So everyone said, "Oh, put a pipe in." We weren't trying to drain anything else, you know? We're just trying to keep the water flowing through.
So this wasn't, this was already an altered area, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody intentionally was trying to make it worse. What if there was no pipe there now?
If anything, we made it better.
Yeah.
Right.
But,
We figured made it
well, if
worse.
it dammed it up, but if there were no pipe there at all, what kind of flow would you get? If the
You'd get
pipe
a
was
trickle.
up?
It's flowing right now.
You
And it
get
was
the
flowing.
same flow you're getting today, if you go out and look at it.
So if you were there in 2007, you were there now, there would not be much of a difference. And that's,
Well, I guess that's my point. If we
That's
tell
the
them,
case.
if we tell them to take the pipe out, because it wasn't authorized, what are we gaining?
I'm just going by what's in the enforcement order. I mean, it seemed like they wanted the engineers to figure out a way to get the water from one side to the other with an
Right.
engineering plan. That's all we're saying.
And I think
But that was all after the fact.
the case is that Mr. Kalishis never contacted me. He received a phone call every day during the rainiest season we've had in 100 years. And someone was trying to sell their house. And he received a call every day from them. He finally just put the enforcement letter out to me. If I had to do it over again, as I said to you last time, I would not have done anything. I would have gone to the Hingham Court and got an attorney and got the engineered plan and gone through it, because we did all the work, we did everything they told us to do. Mr. Kalishis said, do it, just do it, get it done. We did it, I paid everything, and my neighbors haven't done anything except for put the debris back there, and now it looks much worse than it should be. And in 4 or 5 years, we haven't heard anything on this issue until someone's looking to sell their house again. And now all of a sudden, it's an issue again. And if you take out that debris, the water goes from this high down to this high.
Well,
Carol, you can probably attest to the fact of what happened 5 or 6 years ago with the neighbors coming into your office.
I was there in a pretty torrential rainstorm, but it was the first day of a 2-day rainstorm, and the water wasn't even getting to, the crossing. It was upstream. And so I emailed you guys that I said, I'm standing here now, and it's not the fact that the pipe is too high, the water's not even getting down here at this point.
Okay.
Right, I mean, I think one of the questions I'd like to have answered is if at the time you brought an engineer in and they were gonna follow stream crossing standards, which involves a culvert, then they run into ledge, what do they do then? If they have another solution, maybe that's something we could try now. They could say, gee, it's ledge, this bottomless culvert won't work, we still need to get the water through, what can we do? I mean, that would be a case of, all right, we have what we have, how do we?
You've proven that the water hasn't gone through.
Well, it's the people who live upstream that are claiming to get flooded. It's your word against their word. I mean, yeah.
Well, it's easy to figure out. Go over there in a rainstorm, see if they're getting flooded.
We were there today, and it was right after rain, so there's a lot of water on that side that isn't getting to the pipe, so.
And there was no water.
Right, no, I know what you're saying. It could be a number of reasons,
Did you ever think that the pond on their side is deeper than the elevation that the water will flow?
Well, we can see that in the plan.
And we have no idea what it was like before, though, Joe. There was
That's how
there's
it
no
was.
picture, there's no plans, there's nothing.
Excuse me, I'm going back to the fact of the elevation of the ledge at the stream crossing where the pipe is. The elevation
Yeah,
of the
that hasn't
ledge has
changed.
not changed since the glaciers came through here, since God created heaven and earth. That has not changed. So the fact is that if the water comes up to a height that is above the elevation of the ledge, then the water goes through. Otherwise, the water's been the way it's been for thousands of years.
I mean, Lisa mentioned, should we bring someone else in? Ask DEP what they think about this. It's their standard. If they
fine with
feel
me.
that there's a solution that can be tried, or if they feel like when you have ledge, you just live with it. Who knows?
I'd like to defer to them. I mean, they've probably dealt with a lot of this. Let's get their opinion.
Think that'll happen lightning quick?
You don't seem to be making any progress.
But who's saying that it's different than the way it was in 2008? If we have some people here that saying it hasn't changed, and some people that say it has, the water is still flowing?
I don't think the issue, again, Rick, I don't think the issue is whether it changed or not. We have an enforcement order that was written, and it said do X, Y, and Z, and as Pat points out, that would have included an approved crossing, which this is not. And no one's saying to you that you're not being truthful, but the problem is, maybe the agent didn't follow. I mean, now we have an agent that's saying, here's what the rules are.
Okay.
And back then, apparently, we had an agent that didn't do that. He looked at it and said, you know what, this is probably the best solution, take care of it, but it's not documented, that we have nothing to go by.
We never had a chance to get in front of Vinnie at that time.
So.
But how do we?
So what Pat's saying,
here.
what Pat's saying now is, if, what should have happened are these pieces.
What happens if the whole enforcement order was put through just because of some people complaining and, you know, and that's why it was put through, and maybe there was no real cause for it? And that's been my concern since the beginning.
See, but we can't prove that either.
Right, no, it stinks all around. It stinks that you had to do work. It stinks that these people say they're getting flooded.
But we
But we have to, like, listen to everyone. We can't just
address.
discount people and say, it's in your mind.
Well,
You know,
but
it's
I
in your
don't,
mind.
I don't think that we've come to the conclusion that it's flooding upstream because of this crossing. I don't think we've come to that conclusion.
Right.
Right.
The only other thing I've added is,
So then,
if we ask DEP to come out, they don't necessarily have to give us an opinion. They may or may not. They're not a consultant, right? I
Exactly.
think they're gonna write up a report and say you should do A, B, C, D. What do you think? They're gonna say, well, we're not sure.
Let's find out what
And
they
then,
have
and
to
then you just
say.
kick the can down the road.
yeah,
Oh, we're not gonna get any further tonight.
We're not, sorry.
We got a few other things to cover.
Thanks, guys.
So I think that's worth the shot.
Right, so Pat will contact them?
Yeah,
See you in 6 months, yeah.
okay?
And then 6 months later, you'll get a one-paragraph letter.
Hey, guys, I
We don't
really
have an
appreciate
opinion
your
on it.
patience on this matter. I know it hasn't been easy, no one's been a good spot here, and I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, just one comment I have for Joe is that one of the things that could have solved all of this is if Bob did do a plan and did submit it to us. He didn't. So
But that's
don't
not
look
my
at us. Don't look at us.
But that's not my problem either.
Well, it's becoming.
Vinny,
yeah,
your agent,
yeah.
told me to do what I did.
Oh,
That's who's
We don't have
problem.
time.
Okay.
He said we don't have time.
Right.
And I'm witness to that.
And I don't deny that. I wasn't around. I wasn't around for that. But I'm just saying, what could have solved it was if we did have a plan, which was asked for on the enforcement order, we don't have one. So,
And the person who has complained most vehemently about this is not here at this meeting.
Well, that's irrelevant. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, thank you,
Thanks,
Commissioner.
guys, really appreciate it, thanks.
Good
Thank you
night.
very much.
Happy holidays.
Marion Road,
another unhappy customer.
long way off of 715. 92 Marion Road.
Is that you?
It's falling asleep.
Come on up to the table and tell us what's going on.
okay, this is Mr. Boyajian, 92 Marion Road. And we received a complaint that there was stormwater coming off his property. It's a new build down by the end of Marion Road. It's a little bit elevated, the soils are exposed, so we received a call to go check out stormwater getting off the site and into the storm drains, which drain right out onto the beach. So we went out there and I met with Mr. Boyajian. How do you pronounce your name? Sorry. Boyajian. All right. I met with him and we talked about, you know, slope the rain, take care of it, and, you know, we have photos of, you know, silted water going down there. So we're required under the Wetland Protection Act and the local bylaw to prevent stormwater from getting in there, into the storm drains. Public Works doesn't take care of it, it's supposed to be kept on your property. So it looks like, you know, you brought some hay bales down, but they don't seem to be able to control during the heavy rain stuff coming off there. So it is against state and local laws to have the water go in there.
Can you stop that?
Okay. The property, as you say, is under construction, and the final phase is the landscaping, and what we have in mind would completely eliminate this problem. We're talking only about a 50-foot plot of land, and occasionally some water runs off. Most of the soil that you see in the street is from trucks driving on and off the property. Once the construction ends, and the landscaping is put in, that won't be happening anymore. You're saying here that you want me to surround my entire property. Well, let's do it. I already have a retaining wall around there.
Right, out by the street. I mean, in the back, it's not gonna go toward the street. Anything that's sloping toward the street, it's gonna come out there. We're just telling you that we're here to, follow the rules, and that's what the rules
Well, I
call
understand, I'm not here to break the rules, okay? There's some minor construction soil that's leaving, and most of it's washing back on my property next door.
Right, but that
It's
goes-
not going down to the storm sewer, the only storm sewer. You're acting like there's several of them here. There's only one storm sewer at the end of Marion Road, and it never makes it that far.
Well, we have photos that it shows that it makes that far, and that's why we're
So-
involved. You think we choose to go out and look for?
So here's, Pat, no,
The beach is down this way, and this is the silted
right. So I took a ride by, I think you sent out a note or a call or something.
Yeah.
And we took a look at it. So there's no question about it, that the reason that you're getting silt running off the property is because the property's under construction.
Right,
But-
and I put hay bales up, it was the best I could do, because they have to be moved every day, because we have trucks that go on and off.
But if on a site that, and we don't condition, your site itself is not in our jurisdiction, because it's far enough away and it's out of the floodplain.
Right.
But on a site that we would have jurisdiction on the planning board would have, you would be putting crushed stone or some other material to control some of this silt. Let me just tell you this, and then you can decide maybe how best you want to handle it. Do you recall when the MBTA was building the train?
Greenbush?
The Greenbush train yard. And in Greenbush, they had a huge pile of material where the old tennis courts were, and they were told to contain that material, and they didn't. When that ran out, the silt ran into the Herringbrook. Cost them $250,000 because they were running silt into a resource area like the Herringbrook. The problem is the silt that's coming off your property because of the disturbed earth and the fill that's placed there is making it to a catch basin that ultimately leads to Mass Bay. So I appreciate the problem that you're having with runoff and silt and trucks and people driving in and out of there. I don't say that that's not a problem, but it happens on construction sites all the time, and it has to be dealt with. So whether it's a combination of running a silt fence across the property that stays in place when it's raining, and people don't park up on the site, I don't know how you deal with it. I mean, I know how I'd deal with it, is I would do that. I would put a silt fence across the end of that property and try my best to control that. The other thing that a lot of times they do when they're working on certain sites is they put a mesh at that catch basin so that that silt doesn't go down into that, or they put some sort of
Filter fabric.
filter fabric around the basin. I can sympathize with you. I understand the problem. We have it on sites as well, but there was a lot of mud and silt, and you could end up with some serious issues.
I understand that, but we're talking about a very, very, very small, a minute amount of soil that's leaving the property. And I'm within 2 weeks of finishing it with a grid and everything that'll solve all this problem. So we're making a mountain out of a molehill for 2 weeks.
So get it done.
I'm going to.
But if there's a problem, if there's a rainstorm, I don't see that it's that big of a deal to put some additional silt fence or something along
I
there.
have hay bales there.
Okay.
You know, there's no one comes on the property in a rainstorm, but during the damp weather and stuff, they do drive on and off. And again, it's not the water that's washing off the property, it's the trucks that pick up a little bit of mud on the property and then running onto the street, and that brings more dirt than other. And I'm diligent about sweeping that back up when it's finished.
But in the meantime, there's a lot of disturbed earth on the property, and when it rains heavily, that earth gets washed into the road.
Well,
because the lot, it slopes just like this, going up to the...
Part of the finished plan is to reduce that grade.
Yeah. And I'm not saying...
I'm taking every step in there to make the place as attractive as possible, and also as for low maintenance and to prevent all this sort of
And
thing.
I think that's great, but all we're saying to you is while you're under construction, do the best you can to contain that.
I've done that with the silt fence, and I've only got 2 weeks left.
Okay?
So,
But the hay bales aren't set up, they're scattered around the site, they're not even across the front of the property.
I can't put it in front, across the whole thing and prohibit trucks from getting onto the property.
But they're doing nothing the way they are now.
Pat, I think we've made our point. I think that if there's another occurrence and there's silt going into that drain basin, then we won't be talking about it. It'll be DEP, and it'll be the EPA. And that'll be, you won't want to deal with that.
I'm not trying to cause a problem.
Okay.
I don't think there is a problem.
Okay, all right.
I just want to say, there is a forecast for rain Sunday and Monday, so.
Well, we've made our point.
Okay.
And I appreciate that you got to get it done. I would just be very careful till you get it sorted out, that you don't have another occurrence.
I do my best,
I'm sure you are.
okay?
Thank you.
And I would still like to see the letter of complaint that you promised me.
We have the photos.
No, you said someone was complaining, and I said, under the Freedom of Information Act,
What?
I would like a copy of the complaint.
It may have been a phone call, it may have been an email, we'll get you whatever we have. Our records
Right.
are open.
All right, we'll get
That's
that.
good. That's what I requested. And you said you'd email it to me, and I gave you my card.
I said I would show you the photos, I don't remember anything about a letter,
right.
but...
But right now, what we want to concern ourselves with is not having a reoccurrence, okay?
I understand. I'm just following up on the conversation I had with it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much.
Is there anybody else in town that we could visit today?
Is everybody else having a good time tonight? This
What
has
the
to-
hell did you do?
This has to be one of the...
We're still,
I looked and I said, oh, this is like a
Star Wars bar.
It's like when David.
God forbid,
All right, all right.
is there any,
God forbid we
We are-
follow the
we are
regulations of the
still having-
Wetland
let's-
Protection Act.
Jeez, Carol, keep him in the office or something.
Holy mackerel.
All
They
right.
all came out of the woodwork tonight, huh?
Okay, let's get rolling here. So can we,
You did the Yellow Scout, you wanna just...
want to do any more
start off?
enforcements tonight,
Oh.
Pat?
Sure, what else we got? We have letters with Tilden Road, anybody go out there?
Yes, I did.
Do we know if that's near wetlands?
Yep,
Yeah, it's
right
all
up
wet
against
out
it.
there.
Clear cut the whole thing, so we haven't heard back. We got a letter out to them, but Penny was
I didn't
saying
get a
my
chance
letter
to
may
ride
not
by. I
have
will
been-
try to take a look at that.
My letter wasn't strong enough, Penny says, but I did
Oh
quote
my
the
God.
fines and all that other stuff.
Okay.
So there was a buried old barn out back you couldn't even see, so they cleared all the vegetation around it, but they're right up to the wetlands, so.
Okay.
Oh,
So we
Jesus.
sent them a letter, and then we sent a letter to, what was the other one? Is that one to Mr. Hoffler?
Oh, to Brunswick? Did you send Mrs.
Let's
Wall?
do it one at a time.
Yeah, Mr. Hoffler and
Okay.
Peggotty, we sent a letter there.
Or do them
about-
all together, one thing.
yeah.
Okay, we will,
At the fill on Peggotty Beach
Yes.
Road, we haven't heard back. We sent one to Mr. Air, haven't heard back.
Mr. Ayers, Gardner Road.
Gardner Road,
Okay.
Just go down the list, Pat.
all right.
Mrs. Duffy?
Glades Marsh,
Where are
they're
you?
gonna be hiring, this is, Ames and Adams, they're gonna be hiring Martha Reinhardt to develop a restoration plan. They're gonna come back before us,
Okay.
I think probably in the December meeting.
Is there any way, I mean, I know we can't guide the project, but I was thinking about that later on. I mean, that drainage that occurs is like right behind that dune.
Yeah, yeah.
If, in working with the mosquito control, is there any way that they can create a ditch that's further inland so it doesn't get washed over all the
Yeah,
time?
they're gonna, as part of this, they're gonna file a notice of intent, two separate things. And
Yeah.
the notice of intent is gonna be how to keep the ditches clear,
Yeah.
so they don't fill in and they still work.
But can't they work with mosquito control
Yeah,
to
yeah.
develop something else that might work better?
Yeah, the lady from mosquito control said she'd be glad to consult them on this, so.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably the best idea.
You know, because they're permitted to do a lot of those things if it
Right.
deals with triple E and
Yeah.
mosquitoes. And possibly they can get that ditch, so they don't need to clear it all the time.
Right, Right, yeah, so maybe relocating it, yeah, because it just keeps washing in every time there's a
Right,
storm.
so, I mean,
it
that
washes
just seems
in.
like they're beating their head against the wall, if they
Yeah.
could.
Well, that's the idea, I think, is to have them file a notice
their
on
head
that.
against the wall?
Yes, right, that's what we do.
Okay.
Okay. Any update on 271 Central?
I have pictures from today.
It's all cleaned up?
That would be no. The dumpster does have some items in it. However, the TV's now on its face, kind of broken right on the property line of the paper street, so I anticipate when the storm comes through at the full moon around about Thanksgiving, it may end up in the paper street. We have, the bricks are no longer in piles along the paper street. They're on skids, but still they're bordering the paper street, so a good wave will probably suck those in. We still have stairs and lumber and stuff. Again, it's all right along Paper Street.
Yeah.
A lot of the plastic toys and stuff I noticed were removed, but there's still a tremendous amount of stuff. Now, I did notice that Mrs. Duffy had some plantings done. Unfortunately, they were done last week. These plants have already, from the wind, you've got some nice evergreens here, but they're listing almost to the point of on the ground. And a lot of these other plantings, I mean, they're all frozen. They had no chance to set roots, so I don't anticipate them having any prayer of surviving.
How long can she keep that dumpster in the yard back?
As long as they want.
6
Lisa
months.
had looked into it, 6
Really?
months, yeah.
6 months.
With the back wide open?
I don't think that's a factor, yeah, how long you can keep it,
Yeah.
whether it's open or closed.
Well, then they might
I think we're
fill
doing
it
the
up.
best I mean, all we can do is keep firing off
All right.
stuff.
I think it's been going-
What else do you want to do there?
I'd like to arrest them.
Yep.
I mean,
That
years.
was maybe for
This is
sale
years.
to a
This
family
is not
member.
something new.
Okay.
All right, let's
So we
wind
just
this
keep
way.
encouraging them to
Yes,
clean
sir.
it up unless we want to file some other action.
Thought that's what we said, that
I
The
would like to
letter-
file
oh.
an action.
My understanding was with the planning board, building inspector, after 6 months on a storage container, 6 months on a dumpster, construction debris, they can file on a daily basis, $25 a day.
Well, then they can try to do that. For
Yeah,
the piece that we have to
Our
deal
letter,
with.
we said would be filing an enforcement order if things weren't taken care of by now.
All right, so let's do it.
So is it not taken care of enough, we'll just send it?
right?
Fine.
No, it's not.
It's not taken care
It
of.
hasn't.
Okay?
All right, one of the last ones there with Air, we sent a fine, a ticket. It was more of a ticket,
Yep,
and we did that because it was numerous letters with getting nowhere, so.
right.
We could send a ticket.
It looked to me like a little bit more work was actually cleared, or certainly they're keeping it clear. They're not leaving it alone. So I think that's the right thing to do.
What, air you're
Yeah.
talking?
Let's do one at a time. and then-
I know that, but
We're back to
we were on Duffy.
271, so enforcement and a ticket, or enforcement, no ticket, or,
Both.
Send both.
Do both.
okay.
This is for air?
No.
No.
That's everyone central.
That's what I'm saying. I would be nice, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Carol.
Okay,
Hoffler, we talked about. Ackerbloom,
yeah, I haven't written the letter yet. Dropper, we had,
that's fine.
yeah.
Did we get White, 181
No.
Edward
They're
Foster?
continued to next, let's see, next meeting. They have, Adam Brodsky contacted us.
I'm sorry, which one are you talking about now, Pat?
White.
181 Edward Foster. So Adam contacted us, he's representing the family, and Brad Holmes is out doing a wetland plan, and they said they'll have it a week before our next meeting.
Is this the one down the end with the duck
On the left.
pond or whatever it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha,
Yeah.
okay, yep. Moskowitz we did, Hoffler,
Yep, haven't heard back, we sent the violation letter,
You sent him a violation letter?
yeah.
Ackerbloom,
Ackerbloom didn't get to it.
Just said he didn't do the letter.
okay.
Get to it.
Cote.
Cote,
See that?
Paul Marabito came in yesterday, they want to be on the next meeting, and they're working with somebody else. There's an attorney involved in this, I think it might be Jeff DeLisi. And
What was this one?
Are they gonna
This is
file?
Atlantic, there was
Yeah,
a
they're
sand
they're
dune
working on
next to the greenhouse up on Central and
it. One that we
Atlantic.
went to as a group,
Oh, yeah, that filled in, yeah.
Richard, Paul.
Yep.
So they're trying to
The
come up
picture.
with a plan to see if there's any
Right.
possible use out of that lot,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
That'll be on for the next meeting.
They're working, I know they're working.
Yeah,
on it.
well, that's good.
92 Marion, you want to go over that again, or do you want to?
Yeah, let's go over that
Right.
again, because
And
I'm
what are we
going
doing
by
with
there
Tilden?
this weekend.
So you don't hear from them, then what happens?
I'm gonna send you back there.
We said that if they don't respond, there'll be an enforcement order,
Okay.
Yeah.
so.
So what time frame do they get?
They only got this about a week ago, maybe, and there's probably a deadline on there.
Okay.
There wasn't
Oh,
a
no,
deadline
that's
on
the
there.
one that wasn't, right.
Was that their convenience?
But we told them all the things that could happen, so, all right.
Their convenience.
So I'll call them and I'll say, I'll give them a deadline. 2 weeks?
End of the month.
Weeks, you know?
Yeah, because,
And then after 2 weeks, they get an enforcement
was-
letter?
Yeah.
okay.
I mean,
What's the 2-week date?
it may be that they want to come in with some restoration plan and didn't know it was not allowed, and then come in and do some planting,
So
so.
what's the date?
What's today?
Today's 19th.
18th. What's,
Bill, were they digging it up with an excavator or cutting it with a brush cutter?
It was a crane brush cutter. It was
December 3rd.
the piece of,
But they weren't digging up the ground.
no,
Okay.
but they would,
So it's one of those
It was a-
heads that go on the end of an excavator and,
it was a big piece of equipment.
it was half the size of that table,
yeah.
just the head.
Just the head.
Yeah, it was,
Oh, was it a whole ramp?
it was unbelievable.
Sounds like it. I mean, the good news is they're not digging up the soil, so a lot of times the stuff will just revegetate if
Yeah.
they leave it alone.
Well, they were taking down some really big trees
Okay.
with it.
Yeah, it probably triggered
Quiet.
stormwater permit
What'd you
too,
do,
but.
wake you up?
People called and said they were hearing this noise from the beach.
Okay.
Bill found another one that's not on here, that's on Hatherley, that's out of our jurisdiction, but that's definitely, should be a stormwater permit with planning. The one on,
But they must have, I mean, I'm going by that, and if they were demolishing a house, they should have gone to the building department for a permit.
was that a demo, that one on?
There's a house
Yeah, there used to be a house
Oh,
there.
really? Oh, okay.
So this is, you probably signed off on it.
Nah. Well, I could have, because it's out of our jurisdiction.
Right,
yeah.
But Laura, it wouldn't be us doing the stormwater.
I'm not doing the planning board meetings.
No.
Keep going here.
They send stormwater ones to us, so I
All
can
right.
send one to
All
them.
right.
But,
we'll
I mean,
send them-
it's what kind of triggered, and we're not going to get to it tonight, but it kind of triggered about the permitting posting, because it was, now, I couldn't see if DEP or building or anybody, there was nothing.
But it's
happening.
kind of, it's very visible from Hadley Road, but the address is that little tiny Ely.
Eli, right.
Yeah.
Yep,
So you have to get on that little dirt road.
right.
I didn't even know there was a house there till they cut all the trees down.
Either did I.
Well, Shazam.
But, but it also looks like they are containing it. They dug a trench.
Yeah, there's a trench
they?
in front of the, yep.
So,
So, yeah, it may not be our concern at all, but it would have been nice to be able to find a permit someplace.
it's hard to post a demolition permit on a house they turned down.
Yeah, I missed it by that much.
All right.
And 36 Brunswick,
The fence.
That's another fence.
That's another fence. A fence was allowed, but not this type of fence. So the way we handled this is probably a bad example, but the way we handled Monticello, we wrote a letter saying, you don't have a permit to put this fence up, call us and file with us.
The letter hasn't been sent now.
Right,
No, but it's.
right, we just, so.
okay,
Okay.
So she
Get it
got a
out.
letter.
all right.
All right.
Lisa,
I'm sorry.
behave.
So are we I could come up, and this is just a question for us to think about, minor activity permits, and I could probably go find 100 fences tomorrow
Don't.
that were put up.
Fence picture options placement.
No, but, so here's just something thinking out loud. If you're not in a velocity zone, you know, you're not putting a fence bordering a wetland. I mean, people just fencing their yards, normal fences that go up all the time. Is that something we
Why
can
would
do?
it- if it's not by a wetland, then
With
why
a
would it
minor
be-
activities permit? I mean, the only reason I'm throwing it out there for food for thought, if it's too difficult, no one's coming in here and filing
Right.
to put up.
Yeah, we just went through this with her, and she had an approved plan to do a split rail fence. So she put that up, we closed the books, and the next thing you know, there's a fence up. But a fence like that, I think abutters might have the right to say, you know, have their comments at a public hearing, even if it's an RDA. You know, I can't back my car up anymore because this isn't the way, you know, who knows what it is, or it's gonna direct water onto my property. I just think if
A two-rail
if
fence?
it's really a minor activity.
Right, all I'm thinking is no one's coming in here to file, as
Oh,
I'm listening to
yeah.
you. That's what I'm saying. No, nobody's coming in here and filing and going through this whole process to put up a fence. They're just gonna put them up.
Right.
That's all I'm throwing out, food for thought. You know, I get it if you're in your yard abuts a wetland and, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
you're in a velocity zone, the type of fences.
Well, otherwise they wouldn't be here.
Yeah, I mean.
What's that?
I mean, if they're not abutting a wetland or in a V zone or whatever, then they wouldn't be
Well, no,
here.
this fence we're talking about isn't in a V zone or.
Well, it's in a barrier beach and
It's in the middle of Humrock.
An
but
A zone.
What I'm saying, and I'm not talking so much about this particular one, I'm just, while we're getting into this, I'm just saying, because you talk about fences are going up every day down there, all over the place.
And maybe we put something in the regs and address this as a minor activities thing. Maybe certain types of fences or certain areas, and yeah, we could definitely do that. Just in this case, we get 5,000 calls already. Oh, you allowed this fence without a permit. And it's like,
Right.
who, where is it? And it's like, oh yeah, we just had this conversation with this lady, what kind of fence to put in, and now it's a different fence. So we have to do something.
Yes.
And we're back to the
So then-
consistency.
So we're
Right,
back
and that's
to-
why I'm asking, is this,
Exactly.
throwing that out there, is a fence like this a minor activities permit? You know, is it gonna be a notice of intent? You know, what?
This is including visible fences?
Yeah.
Let's, you know what, I want to, it's 9 o'clock, and I really want to get this stuff wrapped up here tonight.
Right.
So,
The only
what is the issue, and what do we want to do about it?
We'll write her a letter, say, contact us, or file, or something, we want to talk to you about it.
Okay.
It's not the fence that we permitted. We
Right,
gotta talk.
right.
Right.
Right. Yeah,
Stockade.
Okay.
all right.
CFCs?
Did you do the CSCs?
So
Yeah.
for Vickers, Lot 2, Dreamwall,
They never signed the,
So that's not.
they didn't sign yet. They need to sign a restriction.
right.
What about Technicourt? They need a covenant?
Ticknicourt signed a covenant.
What happened now?
Oh, they, okay.
Okay,
We have, yes, they sent us in one, and they just need to sign it, so they're all set.
okay.
I don't have a record now.
So then we can't.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Jerusalem
But
Road.
we emailed it to everybody, right?
We gave
Yeah.
them a letter stating what was wrong with it, remember?
Right, but, I mean, these guys.
Yeah,
have
we
a-
saw the covenant letter.
Right, right.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all, they just need to sign it, and we're done. Yeah.
Except when we issued it.
Okay, Jericho Road?
138 Jericho, they were asked to build a beach, and maybe 8 years ago, and it's perfect. It's the best one down there.
Yeah, that's been done for a while, right?
Yeah, maybe 4 or 5 years.
So you can give them,
Yep, they're all set to go.
Okay.
Border Street?
Borden.
Borden. No, oh, I'm sorry.
No, there's
There's
a
a Jericho-
Border Street, she's right.
Border.
Border, yeah, we were out there
What's the
today,
name of the people?
Oh, Borden, right, okay, gotcha.
and we,
Border, border?
yeah, we got a plan from Carbonaro Engineering that doesn't have any of the dimensions of the new structure, and it's
That's what you
different
guys
than the
were-
one that was
right.
approved, so we just need to get them to show us how big this addition was, and we have to go out and measure it. It's like a blank sheet of paper.
Okay.
You know, so,
So no CSC there.
no CSC for them.
What about in Harbor?
No soup for you.
30 in a harbor, we
did
voted
that.
that one early. That was for the raising of the building.
Yeah.
In harbor's in for 3 different
Okay.
things.
So go back up top there. What time's the trail meeting, Frank?
Oh.
1?
1 o'clock, so
Yeah.
anybody that's interested, we're gonna have a meeting at Mount Hope Building in the West End at 1. Hopefully, we'll have some folks from Mr. Blake that was here the other night, with the group that he works with. Howard Matthews, who's been doing a lot of the trails, is gonna bring some of the equipment he uses to do trail work and talk about what he does now. I'm gonna have maps from the different properties we've acquired, and then hopefully discuss potential new trails, access areas, sort of uses that folks would like to see, sort of follow up on some of the Conway School
Very
pieces.
cool.
Oh, nice.
Are we advertising this?
There's been a lot of emails, I know, going
Yeah.
around.
On the
Mr. Blake
trail
has
thing
been-
and,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. The idea is it's gonna be an informal meeting with folks that are interested in doing that sort of work. Anybody
right.
from the commission that
Yeah,
can make it
Right.
would be great.
Gotcha.
And just sort of back
I'll
up
be
the
there.
things we've already been doing. And then hopefully, we're very, very close. The town meeting the other night approved
The switch.
the
Yeah,
switch
yeah.
for the Crosby right-of-way. We're going to relinquish, the town will relinquish its rights to the right-of-way that goes on the Crosby piece once we buy the property and build our own road.
Nice.
Okay.
So
But
with that
you
being
can-
done, hopefully, we're going to pass, been back and forth with emails with the attorneys, and pass on both the Damon and the Crosby parcel. Be unbelievable if we did it by the end of the year.
That would be
Just for the
nice.
people listening at home, to make sure that they understand this has nothing to do with the 40B exchange.
No,
That
no.
is nothing completely
Right.
separate.
But it was voted at town meeting the other night, and everybody's on their way. So once we get those pieces, then we can proceed with our next piece, which would be creating some new parking areas and that sort of thing, which would be nice.
We talked with Tricia the other day and Laura about the open space plan, the big 5-year, or I guess it's a 10-year plan now. You have to have that in place before you can get certain kind of grant money, so.
funding and stuff, yeah.
The person who was doing it, it's 6 months later than we thought we were gonna get it, but I think it's getting close. But I wanted to give it to you and to the people at this meeting even, Howard and those guys, just to see if we have included everything we want in the plan.
Well, if you want to give me that paperwork before the meeting, I can share it.
Yeah, I gotta get it first, I don't have the final, maybe Laura has it, but the biggest thing is like, it may not mention wood cutting lots, or may not address hunting. I mean, we gotta try to get everything in there that we wanna have addressed, because once the plan's in place, you
Okay.
start throwing other things in, it gets a
Yeah.
little more difficult.
Okay,
So, but I'll bring whatever I have.
okay. Are you going to try to attend? I mean,
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna
feel
try to
bad, it's a
attend.
Sunday and in the afternoon. If you don't,
It's gotta be more pleasant than tonight.
During football time.
Yeah. Worst thing I've had.
okay, well, but if you can't, or you have other
Yeah, yeah.
obligations,
I'll
give me
send-
the
yeah,
pieces and
I'll have to check with Laura tomorrow, see what
Okay.
she has. We have one other thing that we do have to vote on is the Barry's Landing insecticide, pesticide, all that kind of stuff. So at this point, Greg Morse has requested that we amend the order to take out that condition, which is a strict prohibition against any kind of insecticides, fertilizers on the site. So I went through our whole regulations, and there's really not anything in there that has as strict a language as that. It's a condition that I guess has been in place for a long time. And it might be something we want to put into our regs, but specify what
Modify,
kind of
yeah,
things we
yep.
want to use, where you can use it, and
And North River has
a couple of
wording in
pages of
that.
it.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that might be a good model to
Yep.
think about. But on the other hand, we want to protect the river and water resource areas from the use of this stuff. So we may want to say, if you're going to be doing such and such a size area, you need to have a professional person doing it. We don't want people just dumping, nuking everything out there.
Yep.
So,
but you don't realize how small things affect other wildlife. There's just a piece in Mass Fish and Wildlife about poisons for rodents. And just rats or mice eating like decon.
Yeah.
But it's an anticoagulant. And if they ingest enough of that, and then they're out and they're caught by like an owl or a hawk, that poison actually goes into it, and they're finding those birds with hemorrhaging badly by eating. So, I mean, there is an impact to what we do, and I'm not saying that we don't
So
want
we're going to say no rat poison.
Yeah, right.
So, we need to vote on that tonight?
Well, their request is, can they file an amendment to have it changed? They know we can't just waive the condition.
Right, so is he gonna specify the wording?
Well,
He actually sent us some, didn't he?
It's right.
Yeah,
he sent us
he
some.
sent us some, and then there's a whole series of things that we can put in there. I know that, I mean, we could leave it up to him. Tell us what you want to do to protect the river and to allow some use of this on the property. You know, put it back on them.
What
And
what if
then-
we just use the North Rivers one? Are we comfortable with it?
That's only 100 feet, though, and we have riverfront for another
So-
100.
So I like your idea. Why couldn't we say, yes, we're open to an amendment?
And
Get one out, you know the framework of what we want,
Right.
word it up, and we'll vote on it next meeting.
And we can give them some suggestions, like the coastal zone management, they have pesticide, insecticide restrictions in the coastal zone, which is pretty good. And then North River has stuff, we may want to extend that another 100 feet if it makes sense. But, I mean, it sounds like it was a reasonable request, and there's got to be some middle ground, and then we can look at it. When we look at our regs, we can really try to make.
And it made sense. It made sense what he said, and like you said, if we're not operating off regulation, it's just because somebody made it a practice.
Right, right, right.
I'd like to vote on John Clarkson's thing tonight, too, so we can get that
Let's
signed.
finish, we need to finish one thing or another.
Yeah.
Do we need to say, make a vote to say, yes, we'll consider an amendment?
It's not an official vote because we're not reviewing anything. It's just like, would they consider it? And it sounds like you would, so I
Sure.
can contact them and have
Tell
them
them
file.
to come in.
Yes.
And because he's doing an amendment, he does have to notify abutters. So abutters will say, gee, I thought there weren't going to be any pesticides. Now there may be. Now they have a chance to come to the meeting. So that's good.
Just what we need.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you.
Yeah.
Well, he's got a proposed one in his letter.
I thought he did.
Right. I mean,
It was, what was it, just similar to North River?
it says the proposed condition is the homeowner shall limit the application and amounts of pesticide and herbicides applied within the wetland buffer zone as outlined in the Scituate Conservation Commission rules and regs. The homeowner shall limit the application of fertilizer within the wetland buffer zone to products allowed by the Scituate Conservation Commission rules and regs. That's the proposed versus the written, of which said, no chemical fertilizer, herbicide, pesticide shall be used at this site. This condition shall survive the issuance of a certificate of compliance and shall run with the title to the property. It sounds like he doesn't want it to run with the title of the property, so then that would only be applied to,
No, we want to modify the rules and the regs that he's referring to.
Right, that's what he's.
And that's what we need
Right.
his suggestions on.
Yeah, the regs don't even have a section on this. They have something under the word alter that talks about it, but it was like one
Yeah,
sentence.
he's a pretty sharp guy, and he's researched this a bunch. I like
Yeah.
that idea. Let him propose.
Yeah. And then we can address it
Right.
big time later, so.
Sounds good. All right.
All right.
Go.
Well, John
John.
Clarkson's letter,
Yeah.
it's,
I make
it's
a
a,
motion. I will make a motion that we support and, John Clark, the letter to John Clarkson for the Water Resource Committee.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, yeah, and I appreciate his work.
Yes.
Yes.
It's very good. Well, your letter was good.
And you're going to get Nancy Durf to attend a meeting, just
Yep.
so we'll have a chance to chat with her.
And I'm going to try to contact Bill Sheehan and try to get with him on the IT side of things to see if there are tools available to help these guys do their job and if I can help.
Yeah, but if we could meet first before you meet with him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like Lisa had mentioned it and Nancy, so we could kind of get some of our thoughts into your meeting with him because he doesn't have a lot of time, so we want to make sure we cover everything.
Fantastic.
Okay.
I mean, if we had just a basic understanding of what the system is in place.
Yeah, Nancy sent a training link on the town
GIS
website.
stuff and all that.
I'd be
yeah.
spearheading that.
Who's this planning board meeting, Pat?
That was me. I'm just thinking, I was watching planning board meeting, and they do so many things that interlace with us. I was wondering at some point if we're interested in meeting with the planning board, but we can table that for later. Don't worry about it.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, but somewhere down the line.
All right.
And Carol, thank you for the badge.
Yes, that was great.
Terrific, job well done.
Thank you.
Yay, Carol.
You're awesome.
The only thing I just say to everybody with going on to different sites, obviously if someone's breaking the rules or there's a wetlands infraction, you want to notify people that they're doing it. I'd be real careful about telling people to like cease and desist or something, only because if you've got it wrong and then they wind up incurring costs with that, then you can go up to them and say, listen, I think you're here, and it's a good chance you're going to face some fines.
Understood.
And then
Right.
they can make up their decision whether
Right.
they're going to stop or not. You know, we had a case a long time ago where a member went onto a site, told them to stop, caused a lot of cost, and then there was,
Even walking on properties where you think something's going on, try to get on a butter's property with permission. You know, I don't even go on until, I'm sure that we have the right to go on.
I mean, if you really feel like it's causing a damage to the environment and all that, obviously you want to try to do something, but you want to be careful
Gotta
for
be
your own
careful
safety.
the way you do it and how you do it,
And
right?
also for others, and then make sure that you don't take away some rights from somebody else. And-
Very well put.
Okay. But it is a good idea to identify yourself and sort of thing, so.
Can we get badges next?
Well, the police asked me for.
There are badges.
The police asked me for an
Conservation.
idea.
We could put little stars on it.
Then Frank will want a gun.
Over. And then
Squirt guns all around.
Oh, yeah,
I should have called you.
verbally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Conway School letter?
So, are we gonna,
The Conway School letter, Conway School who did the other report on the upland
contacted
wetlands.
Pat?
Oh,
And they offered to do some coastal stuff. I talked with Tricia, and she said, find out if they've ever done anything on coastal projects, and if you can get a copy of it, and then we could look it over.
They probably haven't,
And they're looking to get into it.
and I think they do an extremely good job, but
Yeah.
why don't you ask them what they might have, and I'll be glad to chat with her as well.
Interesting to see what
and
Nancy
advocate
has
for
to
that.
say, too.
I'd like to talk with Nancy.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll even try to catch up with you and her before that. They just
Yeah,
did
she
such
said
a...
she hasn't really met you yet. so,
Right,
yeah.
so it'd be good to do that, and then, we had a great report from the Conway School as a graduate students on our
It's a
open
copy in
space.
the office, Jeff.
Yeah.
yeah, it's unbelievably well done.
And,
Awesome.
You
if we
should
could
look
get
at
some
it.
input like that, it'd be great.
The land trust, I am in the process of getting the Scituate Conservation Land Trust back up and running.
Yeah.
Adam is helping, Adam Brodsky.
Have you found any of the founding people that
Oh,
we
yeah,
could?
we're going, I'm in the process now, there's only 2 people left, and they don't want anything to do with it, that's why I
Or
got...
can they sign off of it?
Well, that's what we're going to do, have them sign off. I'm in the process of getting some people together that have no
Agenda.
agenda to be trustees, and we need at least 2. I have 1, I'm gonna talk to some more people. I'd like to get it 3 or 4, would be nice, have them be the trustees. What I am hoping for, and I believe Frank felt the same way, we had talked about it, if we could get this land trust up and running again.
There was a land trust that was formed. There was a group of people, primarily in the West End, with, like, Mr. Crosby. And there were different parcels of land, really not valuable land, marshland. I say not valuable from a monetary standpoint, valuable from an environmental standpoint, that people wanted to donate or whatever, and they formed this land trust. But then over the years, it just sort of went stale.
Well, a lot of them passed away, too.
So,
They took
so
the
there
deeds
is,
to these
Yeah, they held
so
the
there
deed.
is land that they own, and if we could meld that with some of the other things that are going on, it would be would be a good idea.
Because we have to give someone the deeds. We can't hold the deeds, right?
Well, the CRs on the
Right.
property we get, and so this might be a nice opportunity where they would just, it wouldn't be a town operation, but this land trust could hold CRs.
Now, were the Robbinses, did they have something similar, or is that?
They do, the Maxwell Trust.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm not exactly sure if they're structured the same way or
Yeah.
or how that works.
But this would be just somebody that there's absolutely no other agenda, and I have all these deeds, and like Frank said, they're in the marsh, they're in the South
Oh.
Swamp and this and that, but I'm moving forward with it, and I hope maybe by the first of the year to get everything filed with the state again.
Wow.
And have this trust, so it is something that might be very useful in the
Is
future.
Adam volunteering on this, or?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, he came to me, and we are moving forward. I just need to find a few more people that would be interested in serving as trustees. So the two that are still trustees can both come in, and then they can alleviate themselves completely of it. So I just wanted to let you know that that is moving forward, Frank.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That it?
No, I make a motion, we accept the minutes of October 15th, as written.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And we can talk about rates and fines and all that stuff next time.
One of these days.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
I make a motion
To adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
There's stuff to sign, thank you.